Welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. On this episode, it's Tyler and I, and we're talking about Nintendo games based off of R-rated movies. Yes, Nintendo, the original one, made a bunch of games for some reason based off of R-rated movies for kids, I guess. They thought that would be great. Everyone wants the Untouchables game and Rambo. Makes total sense if you ask me. Anyways, this is how Tyler and I spent our Easter. I think I tricked him into doing a holiday episode. I'm going to loosely tie it together here for you. See if I'm wrong or if I'm right. Movies have Easter eggs in them. We recorded on Easter. Even though this isn't about Easter eggs, it is about movies which do contain them. So Easter episode? You guys tell me if that's too loose. Anyways, I want you to know we do have a Patreon for this show. It is at patreon.com/collectorsquest.com. You can join for as little as $2, but no more than $6. And with that, you get added to the Discord, which I think is the best part. And you also get some bonus audio, which can be fun. So if you're into that, please join if you can afford it. If not, don't worry about it. That's my quick blurb on it. If you can't do that, if you could go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, that would be awesome. That'd be the next best thing you could do to help us. So thanks so much. Hope everyone is doing well. And here's the show. Starting.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler, here with Johnny. What's going on, Johnny?
Hey, Tyler, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. I joined the Video Game Sage Survivor game, which is exactly like the regular reality TV show, except you play a video game in a competition almost every single day. So until I get voted off, I will be playing video games competitively, like, every day for, like, 3 weeks, probably.
Okay, and how do you show your worth so you don't get voted off? Like, what are the established boundaries here?
I mean, so like the most recent thing was we're in tribes of 5 people, and we had 5 different shoot 'em ups to play, and we had to assign each game to one person in our tribe, and our tribe's score at the end is the combination of all the scores we got, and then the lowest tribe has to vote someone off the island or whatever. So, okay. Like the games they go from like River Raid to Gradius 5. So your score in Gradius 5 is going to be hundreds of thousands, and your score in River Raid probably closer to tens of thousands or 100,000. So you have to strategize based on basically putting your weakest player on the weakest game, or what do you want to do there? It's
so like every time you play, do you have to like take a picture of your score, or how's that work?
Yeah, you take a picture of your score or a screenshot, whatever you're doing. Their stance is basically that if you're going to cheat, you're going to cheat. So like, how are we going to prove that you're going to do everything anyway?
Yeah. You know, in such a low stakes environment, you should definitely cheat.
There is a prize. I don't remember what it is because I'm not expecting to win it, Johnny. But there's intrigue, Johnny. I'm going to reveal this on Collector's Quest. Someone in my tribe I know is lying about his score. There's intrigue. He chose to go the selfish path, which was detrimental to his score, but I think it gave him a secret hint to a hidden immunity idol, Johnny, because he said that his 1942 score on NES was like 53,000. I played 1942 once, completely cold, and I got like 200,000. There is no way that within a day of playing, his entire score was 53,000. Okay. He betrayed our tribe for his own selfish immunity idol goals, Johnny.
Yeah, that's pretty much Survivor. I also like Survivor a whole lot as a game show.
I tried watching it, I think a year or two ago. Like, I figured out what the best season is. I think people say the China one is the best season, and I just could not get into it. Although I do remember watching like a couple seasons when it was new, because back in the 90s, everyone watched primetime TV. Like, everyone on planet Earth was just like, just tune into Survivor, tune into Millionaire, into The Mole, whatever.
That was the 2000s.
2000s, 90s, they're the same thing to me, Johnny.
It was the 2000s. No, because you were barely born in the 90s.
I was barely born in you're correct.
Yeah, you weren't like 3 years old being like, hooray, let's watch Survivor, Mom.
Really? When did Survivor get? Oh, I guess Survivor's not as... When did Survivor? I'm going to say it was the year 2000, Johnny.
It's probably... I remember season 2 Australia debuted after the Super Bowl, so that made it like a big deal.
It is the year 2000. Now we know.
All right,
there are 40 seasons of Survivor. 596 episodes.
And 2 seasons normally a year. And like, there's not one season I've watched where I haven't been entertained to some degree. I like the game theory. It's changed a lot too. What's interesting is how the game was played before and how it's played now, and how after you have people who have absorbed all the knowledge of all the previous seasons, then go and try and play, like, now there's a meta game to Survivor, which it didn't have when it first started, which is crazy to think about.
That sounds
there's
excellent,
like this existing meta. Yeah. So yeah, like I especially like seasons that have like returning players and like our all-star seasons against like some new players, because then you see like the new players who know what the meta should be, but then you have returning players who have the experience behind them and just how they engage. Like sometimes they're mixed together and sometimes they're kept separate from each other, and like what their fear is of like the older players, and then the returning players, their fear of the newer players, that they're just going to get voted off because they know too much already. So they're already a bigger threat. So there's like this dichotomy there. Yeah, it's good. It's an excellent idea, and it evolved itself just for existing for so long, which is continually made it interesting. Though I don't think I've seen like the last 3 seasons, because I had to cut a lot of TV out of my life, and Survivor didn't make the cut.
Sure.
So sorry, they got voted off.
So I went into this game thinking like, it's just a video game competition. I'm just going to see how good I can do at video games. I'm not going to get caught up in this high school drama, backstabbing bullshit. And
you're fully
like
invested.
the second game was this shoot 'em up thing. And like, I immediately realized that one of our tribe mates submitted a fake score. I'm like, guys, this score is fake. We've got like a separate PM thread going on. Like, we're going to vote him out if we're ever on the low end of the totem pole. Man, I'm already into it, Johnny.
Yeah. If you ever have to go to tribal council, he's being voted out. All right.
What are people saying about me and PM? Anyway, Johnny, no one cares about my personal Survivor game. Survivor is a game played by adults, though.
Yeah. So there are some adult games that we could talk about. Adult only games, right?
You might say that they're restricted to those 17 and up, but not really, because the ESRB didn't exist yet.
Yeah. So these are rated R games we're going to talk about then?
We're going to talk about NES games based on R-rated movies. In fact, you might call it the set of NES games based on R-rated movies, because there are a lot of them, and I think it's a cool set to collect. It's not... we didn't come up with this concept. It's definitely a set that I've heard people talk about collecting. Like, this is an interesting set to collect, and there are a bunch of expensive games in it now. But yeah, we want to talk a little bit about them. Yeah.
So, and to be clear, the movie the game is based off is R-rated. This has nothing to do with ESRB ratings or any ratings applied by any body for video games. This is like the games themselves probably aren't R-rated, but the movie it is based off of is. Okay, so it's not like mature video games. It's R-rated movie games. Cool? I just want to make sure everyone's clear on the distinction.
So we have 23 games to go over, Johnny. And I want people to, as we're talking about these movies/games, I want people to keep in the back of their mind that in 1993, Nintendo went to Congress and talked up how they're not going to put Night Trap on a Nintendo console. Night Trap, a game with almost no objectionable content. It has like implied death. It's ridiculous. There's nothing objectionable in Night Trap, but these 23 plus some extra games we're going to talk about were on NES in the preceding 6 years.
No problem.
That congressional hearing.
And how we're going to move through this is we're going to start in chronological order of the game's release, not the movie's release, of the game's release. Is that correct, Tyler?
It sure is. And also, awesome. One thing I want to point out in almost all of these is the proximity of the game's release to the movie. A lot of times it's a year or two, but sometimes it's just like a movie or a game based on a movie that came out decades ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really weird when that happens. So, I think... Are we ready to jump in, to dive in?
Also, we didn't go into like months, because I'm not gonna get the exact release dates for 23 games to put them in order. So it's loosely just based on the year, chronological order. Starting with,
I have a few that have the months for. Well, we'll get to those reasons.
All right,
but you have Jaws. You have the date written wrong.
Jaws, was that the first licensed NES game? I think this might actually be correct.
Well, the movie, is it based off the 1987 version of Jaws?
It is
Not
based on
not the
Jaws the Revenge, the fourth Jaws movie. I feel like people don't consider that fact, but Jaws came out way before the NES version.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Jaws is 1975 or something.
Yeah. Jaws 4, I have not seen Jaws 4. From what I gather, it is a very bad movie, as most Jaws sequels, I think, are considered. But people consider this game collectible, especially recently. One of the things, well, we didn't talk about this in a little before we get into the games thing. A lot of new people in the video game market, a lot of people who don't have a lot of knowledge about video games themselves, but are going after licensed properties they know. So things like movie games and comic games, that kind of thing, have been more popular and more expensive lately because people are just like, oh, I recognize that thing. That's a popular thing. I want to own that thing. You know, Jaws plus Nintendo equals two great things coming together into a LGN game based on the fourth Jaws movie.
But it's a known quantity. It's a pop culture item.
It sure is. I think, like, if this was called Jaws 4 or Jaws the Revenge, probably less popular, but I don't think they'd ever do that, because why would they call their name based on a movie no one
Why would they take a hit? So, you know what's interesting, too, is I talked about this phenomenon on the last episode a little bit with Superman, right? Because the people who are coming into the collecting world, they just don't have any of, like, this old collector stigma of, like, oh, movie games, bleh, those are always terrible. I don't want those because they're bad games. You know when being a bad game used to affect the price of a game in the collectible market? Like, that is going away. I mean, it's been, like, receding for a long time. Unless, like, a game was super rare, it didn't really matter. You know, like, if it was super rare, if it was bad, then it could still be, you know, your stadium events could still be very expensive. But things like, you know, Superman, like I talked about last time, bad game, like, kind of suppressed the price. The idea that it was a bad game held it back. But that's all going away. So if you still have some of these, like, old notes in your brain, start deleting them and, you know, get current, because you don't want to.
No, decide for yourself if you want to collect bad games. I don't think you have to collect bad games.
I don't think you have to or want to. I'm just saying, if you are collecting, don't look at it and be like, oh, that's a bad game, so I'm not going to, you know. Look, if you're out there in the wild and you see something, you're like, I'm not going to buy that if it's a good price. I don't know, you should buy it if you see a good price on it.
Sure. So we're not going to go deep into each of these games because there's a ton of them and a lot of them aren't very interesting. There's some interesting things about Jaws. Jaws has a 5-screw revision. Normal NES games, but NES games changed to 3-screw about this time. So very early releases of this game were 5-screw, and it's one of the harder 5-screw games to find. And then also, it was made by Atlas, who subcontracted it to Westone, who are the people who made the Monster Boy games, like all of the Monster Boy games. And Jaws is really bad, which is, I guess, interesting, because not the Wonder Boy games. Why did I write Monster Boy? The Wonder Boy games. And the Wonder Boy games are beloved, and they've been ported to everything, and they've been remade, and it's like a historic kind of Metroid-like game is Wonder Boy 3. So, NES Jaws, I say, it plays like an Atari game. It is so simple. There's like 2 things you do in the game, and you beat it in like 10 minutes, that it feels like a game out of its era. But that's Jaws, I think, for NES, unless you have anything else to talk about it.
I really don't. Like you said, a lot of these games, we didn't go super deep, and there's not a lot of super deep stuff to go on them. So, you know, let's move on.
All right.
So Rambo, you know, a thing I'm going to do too is just like, I do want to say about these games, and Rambo's our first iteration of this. So Rambo, starring Sylvester Stallone, all of these movies, like not all of these games, but like most of them have some action star, you know, some powerhouse action star that they're based around. So you're going to get a lot of, you know, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, you even get a Liam Neeson in here. So just be prepared for that. You know, spoiler alert, Arnold was the king of the action movies, and he is the king of these games as well. He will appear in the most. And you also get some Mel Gibson, which at one point was kind of like an action star, but, you know, not so much anymore. Also, everybody who like stars in these movies is pretty much still making movies, which is crazy to think about. Anyways.
80s nostalgia, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, they're still out there. I mean, even Mel Gibson made like, what is it? A movie called Fat Man that was released around Christmas where he was Santa Claus. Kind of entertaining if you can stomach Mel Gibson. So
I can't.
Anyways, fair.
I like the Mad Max movies, actually, so I won't say that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Mel Gibson's in some movies I like, but I also like to watch weird Christmas movies, and so he was in this, so I gave it a whirl. It was okay. It's nothing special. Anyways, the game I'm talking about here, though, is Rambo, and it's the 1987 game, but it's based on the 1985 movie. It's also not the first Rambo. It's based on First Blood Part 2.
That is the first Rambo.
Is it? First Blood Part 2 is
Rambo's a nightmare. So the first movie is First Blood, and then it's Rambo First Blood Part 2, and then it's Rambo 3 after that. Like, the numbering in this series makes no sense.
Wait, I thought First Blood is the first one.
First Blood is the first movie, but it's not a Rambo movie. First Blood Part 2 is Rambo, and then the sequel to Rambo First Blood Part 2 is Rambo 3.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Anyways, this is based off First Blood Part 2. Okay, just know that this game is based off First Blood Part 2. And it's similar-ish to Zelda 2, so that kind of side-scrolling action kind of game. It's not very expensive. I mean, we'll talk about this. We didn't say with Jaws, but like a lot of the games, you can get it for $5 for the cart. This is not too bad. If you are sitting and waiting in your cart collector, it's a $5 cart. But a CIB, also not too terrible right now, $35. So if you're out there waiting or thinking about it, or if you care at all about this, or if you're ever going to think about buying this game and knowing how the current market is moving, it's like $35 right now. So it probably won't be later.
Yeah.
That's all I got for
CQ spec pick Rambo.
I mean, this like a lot of this list is a CQ spec pick.
I guess the one thing I remember about Rambo is that at the end of the game, Rambo shoots the bad guy with a Chinese character. I believe it's specifically a Chinese character, not a Japanese character. And then he turns into a frog, which does not seem like the end of Rambo. I don't know.
No, that's exactly how it happened.
Oh, okay. Well, it's faithful then.
Yeah, completely. And now that you're bringing up, I totally remember that, which is a memory I didn't realize I still had. That's very funny.
Excellent. I'm happy I triggered that in you. Next, Johnny, we've got Predator, the 1988 game. Were you open me?
I said, ooh, Predator.
A 1988 game based on the 1987 movie, nice and close to the release date. Apparently loosely based on an MSX game, according to your note here. I don't know the MSX game Predator.
Yeah, so it was a little different, but it came out on MSX first.
Okay, and this is one of these games that apparently just got bought out in 2021. So probably the worst time in human history to buy Predator. Predator, $10 cartridge, complete in box copies. January, one sold for $100. February, $150. March, $210. And now there's one for $350.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Like, people just went insane, bought it out and left only the super high value ones, or reposted their January pickups as like the expensive ones. I'm not sure.
I'm Predator is like on the edge of movies I'm interested in because it's more of an action movie, but than a horror movie is what I was implying.
Right, it's more action. Like, I know it's supposed to, like, there's an alien in it specifically. The Predator is an alien, but it's like it's even on the edge of sci-fi for me. So.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that because is there that big of a following for Predator? Like, I know Alien is like one of the most beloved horror movies of all time. Like, if this was an Alien game, I'd say, yeah, sure, buy it out, try to spike it to the moon, whatever. Is Predator like that much of a thing that people are going to try to like 5x the price overnight? I don't know. It's weird to me.
I don't know. It's a weird pick. I'm excited to talk about this next game though.
Ooh.
Yeah. You know why?
This is incorrectly placed, so I'm going to delete it and move it to the bottom of the list though. Sorry, Johnny. New next game.
All right. New next game. I'm excited to talk about this next game. It is Platoon. And actually, I am excited to talk about this because if you know anything about Platoon, it's like got Charlie Sheen in it. It's, a Vietnam war movie. It's about the horrors of war and dealing with that reality. And it was done by Oliver Stone, a very serious director. So it's to me, a clear pick to make a Nintendo game about.
I'm saying top 2 movies on this entire list, not to turn into a Nintendo game. Maybe top 1, probably the number 1 movie that should not be a Nintendo game. Platoon.
Platoon. Yeah. You're just like, whoa, that is a weird pick. But, it's the game came out in 1998, but it's based on the 1987 British computer version based on the 1986 movie Platoon. So it's a side scroller where you jump up and down, go through a maze. But here's what you don't know. Those controls are horrible. This is a terrible game to play. If you have never played it, it's super clunky because you have to use the up to jump, but also up to move through up to jump, then up to move through mazes. Like it's really annoying to play. That's what you need to know about. This is a game I've played. Don't recommend.
Is this a childhood game of yours?
Yeah, did not.
Why did your parents buy you Platoon?
I traded some kid. I told you my thing. I tried to beat as many games as I could. So I played a lot. I've played most of the NES library at some point. So this is Ocean's first computer game. If you don't know Ocean, they huge over in British microcomputer games, and they're going to be featured prominently on this list because they also made a bunch of Nintendo games that they ported over. There are circle and oval skill variants. Again, card on this, like $10. CIB, around $30. So what are you doing if you want this game? If you want it, you want some Charlie Sheen action in your life, Platoon is the game for you.
I want to be in the boardroom where they decided, Platoon for the Nintendo.
The next one coming up is also like a big WTF game for me.
The Untouchables, a mobster movie, as far as I know, based on just the box art, I think, Johnny, right?
Yeah, Untouchables, mobster movie. I believe it's, what's his name? Kevin Costner?
Yeah. So, this is a 1989 NES game, which was ported from British microcomputers, and it was based on the 1987 movie. It's also an Ocean game. The interesting thing here is there are 2 major variants of the Untouchables. The first, more common release, it has Kevin Costner on it. It's a photographic box art, so the box, the manual, and the cartridge all have this art. And then the second release is one of the red stripe NES games, which means it just has a red stripe at the top. And when did they start that? Was that 1993 they started doing that? Maybe 1992? No, 1991.
I think 90.
Johnny.
It was,
because Ninja Gaiden 3 has that, and that came out in 1991. Anyway, later NES releases, not like super late, but later NES releases start having that red stripe at the top
90s and up is what we can say. It was a 90s convention.
Yeah. And then that's usually called the blue label, the first print, sometimes called the black label. And it's got a more artistic drawing of 3 characters from the movie.
Yeah.
And it sells for some premium. There aren't enough recent sales, and prices are so crazy right now. I would be hesitant to say what premium that is, but there is a premium on the blue label version of the Untouchables.
It is less common. Yeah. So the Untouchables, like I'm trying to remember. So Kevin Costner, I believe, is on part of the commission that, because it's during like Prohibition era and fighting bootleggers,
Sure.
So that's what this movie is about. So like, is this what the game is about? Is this what kids want to play? Do you want to really free alcohol to the masses or be part of the government system that, people say oppress their rights to enjoy an alcoholic beverage? It's like a weird premise to be in a video game.
Johnny, here, I'm going to tell you exactly what the game is. And I've never played Untouchables, and I don't remember any footage of the Untouchables. You play a guy in a fedora, probably in a trench coat, with a gun, shooting guys with Tommy guns on city streets. Did I get it? Is that the exact game?
You got it.
All right.
Nailed it.
I guess notably, so I just kind of mentioned it like it's a variant. This is one of the biggest variants on NES. There are not a lot of NES games that have like the entire art changes across all box art and manual. So this has always been one of the biggest NES variants. So maybe get it. CQ
like
pick. Get into. I didn't put prices here.
This and Hollywood Squares. Well, Untouchables. Blue label. You can like find a box right now for about $180. But it is kind of expensive. So you can get a cart for like $10 to $20. Sometimes you can find a box copy for like $50. So it's a little bit all over the place. It's very condition dependent and how complete it is. And that's just going to be true now for all the NES games we talk about, because you can find like a $40 box and cart, but no manual, and the box is kind of trashed. So it just going to depend on like what your appetite for good condition is. So just know our prices are kind of median prices that we are talking through, not exact. So you might see a little higher, a little lower, depending on what's going on with the condition.
When I go for prices these days, I basically ignore price charting and I just go to eBay Solds and I pick like not even the last 3, just like the last 2 nice ones. And I'm like, anything past that, it's the Wild West, because we're in 2021. Until something changes and we level off or we have a correction, who knows with video games?
Yeah, true. But I mean, even if you look at the eBay, not solds, like the current ones available, you're going to see that range in prices based on the condition.
Yeah.
So this one, here's a good one. Guys, do you like Atlas games? I know you do. I know you do. You love them. You love them so much. You hype them to the moon. You want the whole Atlas. It's like a sub series. It's up there with like Working Design as publishers people love. It's like the secondary Konamis and Capcoms of the world. But Atlas is still doing it at a high level, right? So you want those Atlas games like Friday the 13th?
Whoa.
Wait.
Beloved,
whoa, weird.
Johnny, beloved.
Yeah. Beloved game. You and your friends are dead. Game over. It's got the best end screen ever. Also made like by Atlas, but it is also just, an LGN game. So it's still published by them. It's not super expensive. If you want the cart, it's like $15. But if you want a complete game, it's like $100 to $150 now. There is a circle and an oval seal variant. The prices don't vary too much between that, but obviously, collectors now are leaning on circle seals, even if that's not the most rare copy of the game. So that's what collectors are after, though, because that seems to be earliest. Now, like we'll talk about in another episode, whether people are getting it wrong. Are they taking circle seals where that's the bulk of what was published, and maybe the oval seals are rare or not? I speculated this last episode. I still think some of that is true, but the current collector market doesn't care about that. They want the circles. So
yeah, sure. I mean, like, all right. Let me start at square one. Just in case we should be describing things. Just in case you don't know, circle seal and oval seal. What we mean is the Nintendo seal of quality. Usually in the bottom right of the box, either it'll have an oval with a white background, which is the later '90s version, or it will be some kind of circle, usually a black circle, which they used from the mid '80s up until whenever. Some people know the cutoff dates off the top of their head. They're crazy people. When's the cutoff date, Johnny? Like late '80s?
I don't know. Hey.
Something like that. Circle seals will be the earlier release. Oval seals will be the later release. Sometimes one is rarer than the other. If you're going into sealed copies, the sealed oval seals will always be more common almost, because those are going to be the copies that were left over basically, after they stopped selling copies of the game. And, in me and Johnny's opinion, I will just state Johnny's opinion because I already know it. Circle seals are cooler just because they stand out less. They're less ugly. Right. The saddest thing in the world is when you see someone's set of Castlevania, Castlevania 2, Castlevania 3, and the Castlevania 1 has the oval seal, so it doesn't go like this nice transition from circle to oval. It's just like oval, circle, oval. It's like, it's incongruous. I don't like it. Anyway.
Yeah, so one last thing to say about Friday the 13th, too. We didn't say the year. It's the 1989 game. This is when it came out. But it's not based off of one specific Friday the 13th. It's more based off the idea of the 7 movies that existed at the time. And you'll see this with a lot of these games where it's off of big franchises. Some, like our next one, will get very specific about the movies they're about. But others will just kind of be about like, hey, here's a franchise and here's a movie game based off that franchise. And this is one of those.
Johnny, I have a fun fact.
Oh, tell me.
Recently on eBay, there were $50 copies of this signed by Jason Voorhees.
Oh, yeah.
Signed, and I was like, so obviously, like, someone knows the guy who played Jason Voorhees and got him to sign that. I'm like, that's strange. That guy would be very old right now. It was signed by the guy who played child Jason Voorhees in the first movie. And I thought that was notable because in the first movie, spoilers for Friday the 13th, a movie that's like 40 years old, 50 years old, 40 years old. The killer is Mrs. Voorhees, not Jason. So this game is specifically not based on the first movie, because I believe the killer in this game actually is Jason.
Yeah.
So that's weird that he signed those games. But I mean, whatever. No one cares. They just want the autograph of someone related to Friday the 13th. I understand. I am like the most particular little ass. I am just the worst person, Johnny.
I love you, Tyler.
I love you too, Johnny. I love how particular you are about things. And all the people in the CQ Discord, patreon.com/collectorsquest. A bunch of particular nerds.
Yeah. Our kind of people.
Did we say this game is like $100 to $150 complete? Hard to say. Yeah. It looks like there's fewer Circle Seal copies on the market. It could just be because over the past couple of years, people have bought them out, basically.
All right. Shall we move on to the next one?
We absolutely should, Johnny. The number 1 or number 2 game that should not be a video game, let alone a Nintendo game.
This one is so puzzling. I mean, I get why they did it, but they missed the point.
Absolutely. Not even. They are against the point. RoboCop, the 1989 NES game based on the 1987 movie. Before we get into why RoboCop should not be a commercial video game where you just shoot guys, this was a Data East arcade game ported to British microcomputers by Ocean and then ported to NES. And I've told you guys on the show that I've been buying Spectrum games. One of the Spectrum YouTubers who is just a fountain of British microcomputer knowledge that I follow is Kim Justice. She puts out just documentaries about British microcomputer companies and games, and like just plays tons of them on streaming. Anyway, I know RoboCop is one of the most popular Spectrum games of all time, one of the best-selling Spectrum games of all time. I don't know about the other computers, but this was like a massive computer hit. This is the company that essentially put Ocean on the map. It was the second game they published after Platoon. I'm guessing Platoon wasn't a smash hit, but RoboCop was, and it's what set the company off into making a lot of licensed movie games because this game was such a success. NES version, I've never heard anyone talk about. Like in America, this game essentially does not matter.
Yeah, not a big deal. But I have a couple of questions.
What are your questions, Johnny?
Didn't cartographers first put oceans on maps?
Johnny, that's too dumb for me to even respond to.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself at all. But I want you to tell the people about the price, and do tell us why RoboCop shouldn't be a game.
RoboCop, $10 cartridge, $50 complete. It's not that rare, but I mean, cool game. Not a cool game, but does the fact that this is like a port of a port make it less interesting to collect? Like in this world, I realize it doesn't matter. It says RoboCop, so just buy it. But
oh, I have another question.
I like getting all this original stuff now. So like the NES game wouldn't be the interesting thing for me to buy. What's your other question, Johnny? The
British microcomputer game, since it was like the best-selling game of all time, and they made just so many of them, and there's probably some like weird small revisions of it, should it cost $660,000?
Absolutely, because this game is just so popular. Unsurprisingly, RoboCop is worthless. Also, new Spectrum games, as far as I've seen, are not easy to find. But also, like, that market is considered such dog shit by collectors in Europe, as far as I know. Like, those games are just, like, not coveted. It would be like, as far as I can see, again, I don't live there. It's really hard to get a gauge on, but like Spectrum games and all this like garbage cassette stuff, people see them like jewel case computer games over here. Like people do not want that stuff unless they're specifically in that era. Anyway, RoboCop, the 1987 fucking masterpiece, social satire, anti-capitalism, anti-violence, just like this. Oh, it's a perfect movie. It is so good. I saw it a couple of years. I saw it as a kid, obviously, which is weird. Kids shouldn't see RoboCop. They wouldn't even understand the point of RoboCop.
I saw it in a drive-in, Tyler.
Awesome, Johnny.
Yeah.
Make me feel young because I've never been to a drive-in. But
it's not worth.
Commercializing RoboCop as a game where it's just RoboCop is a guy who's half cop, half robot who shoots dudes. It's like counter to the point of what RoboCop is. Like
yes,
the idea of RoboCop, part of the idea is that you would just look at the poster and be like, oh yeah, it's going to be this stupid ass action movie where a guy just shoots dudes. And they didn't actually watch the movie. They're just like, yeah, we can make a video game out of that. Video games are where people shoot dudes.
You know what? It's interesting too, because this was done by the director was Paul Verhoeven, right? So he's going to show up later on this list too, in a couple other movies because he just makes these type of movies.
Yeah. Cool, Johnny.
Also, this making because RoboCop is kind of maybe hard to ingest for people who are younger, and this like Fight Club doesn't hold up as much anymore for like ages, but maybe it's a more current reference. Like the idea of, if you know the point of Fight Club, making a game, which they did for Fight Club to make money off of, is ridiculous and counterintuitive to the point of both the movie and the book. So this is the first iteration of that happening, which is very weird.
So sometimes, I'm trying to think of a recent example. So sometimes they do that, like they would make a Fight Club game, but the point of the game would be a joke that it actually exists because it's like not the point. It would be
subversive
of Fight Club.
It would be a subversive creation, but that's not what this is.
So I don't know about the Fight Club, but like absolutely that is not what the RoboCop game is. Just like RoboCop is cool.
It's such like a weird thing, started Peter Weller back in the day. It's just like, it was such a good, like, there's so much going on in this, but it also like, it's so indicative that of the 80s that it got a game and also a cartoon series. Like, guys, that's not what this is. You're doing this wrong. But they're like, oh man, a robot cop, sweet, make it a game and make a cartoon. Kids love it. And to be fair, kids did love RoboCop. They weren't wrong.
Sure. It would be like, it would be like a 1984 video game where you're Big Brother and you're surveilling the populace to make sure everything goes okay. Like
that sounds like an awesome game. Let's do it.
I'm thinking.
Man, I think you just sold me on the game. Let's go pitch that.
Yeah. It'd be a new genre of God game. Is there a game genre where you play as like a totalitarian regime surveilling the public? That doesn't feel like a game genre to me, Johnny. Someone should make it.
That's how I played every version of Populous in The Sims, so.
Johnny, what's our next game on the list? We've talked enough about RoboCop. We got a lot of games to get through.
We do. And not a lot of time. Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the 1990 game based on the 1984 movie. There wasn't even a Nightmare on Elm Street movie in 1990. This is weird. But the fifth movie did come out in 1989. This is a Rareware game. So it's interesting that these LGN games, like, they just hired these upcoming, developers that turned into like later to be awesome and like very important. But, here they're just making dog games. The most interesting thing about Nightmare on Elm Street is that they're like $60 to $70 loose. So that's crazy to me.
And to be clear, like some of these games that have increased in price, it's like, okay, there's not enough to go around complete, like Untouchables Blue Label. There's just like not enough to go around. So like, okay, if people are going after that, it's going to increase in price. Nightmare on Elm Street sells every single day on eBay. It is just as common as you think it is and is going for $60-$70. So it's very surprising to me. Also, you called it dog. I would say Nightmare on Elm Street, probably one of the better games on this entire list. It is not horrible. It's like a side kind of.
It's fine. It's
fine for a licensed movie game is good enough for me, Johnny.
Yeah, by our standards here for licensed movie games, yes. Okay, I'll grant the concession. Anyways, the CIB goes for about $150. This is something I'm not sure of and requires further research. But I don't think there was a circle seal of this game, though I see reproduction boxes that have a circle seal. But most of what I see are white ovals. So, and so I don't know why that is. That like a stock photo and like a reproduction label has a weird circle seal. So I don't know if maybe they found one and that was the one they copied or not. I looked at my personal copy; it's the white oval. So there might be a circle seal out there. If it is. It is rarer than the oval by a good deal if it exists. I'm not saying it does. More research required on that. That's my fun fact.
Oh man, that is so weird.
Right? It's like normally it's the other way, right? Because normally the easiest copy to find is like the one that gets the reproduction box cover, and that's like or the stock photo cover. But this one has circle seal. It's It's an oddity to be sure.
A lot of these box covers, they're like remade with like higher quality assets. So what I'm guessing happened is that they were able to get high enough quality Nightmare on Elm Street, or as high as they could get, and then they replaced the seal with the high quality circle seal. They probably took it from like a similar game with the same box, like Friday the 13th, and just plastered it where it was supposed to be. That's what I'm guessing happened. But maybe there's a circle seal in this game.
I don't think there is. There's nothing that leads me to believe that other than the weird reproduction art, which also shows up on like glasses and other like drinking glasses, pint glasses, and stuff.
So I just found the source image that they're using, and you can clearly see that the Nightmare on Elm Street part is scanned, and then they put in the LJN logo and the seals, and they're much higher quality. Someone definitely just made this.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sorting that out. Live research right here. So cool.
So
if you see that, that's why.
Hot tip, don't believe pictures. If you see a picture of a box art, there's like 0% chance it exists. You need to see the box to be sure something exists. That is especially true for newer games where there's like mock-up art of like unreleased games.
Yeah, we've talked about this phenomenon a little bit, how in modern gaming, you're like, oh man, we're in the modern era. Like older games were hard to figure out and catalog because they just didn't get all the pictures. But modern games, because everything is just Photoshop and they just never take pictures of real things, it's really hard to ascertain if something actually was physically created or not, or actually released, or if it was digital or, a physical copy. It's gotten real weird. Research in some respects has gotten harder with new games than for old games.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Oh my God. Johnny, Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm going to say my heart goes out to people still collecting loose NES. Because at this point, like, you're probably hundreds of games in. It's just like, God damn it. I have like 100 games left. I need to finish the set. So I have to buy Nightmare on Elm Street no matter what people are paying for it. But if this game is so desirable that it's $70 loose and a complete copy is $150, essentially double. If you were just buying this game, it would make 0 sense to buy just the cartridge. Like double is, I'd consider almost a deal these days. I don't think anyone buying this game who was just buying specifically this because they wanted this game in particular, not just because it was checking a box, would buy a cart over the double price CIB. But there are so many games like this. We brought up Bomberman 2 on a recent episode where it's just like, man, loose NES guys, becoming a bad set to collect. Because the whole idea is that it should be cheap to buy loose carts, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just not being true anymore. Also, this game is a good example. Like Tyler is saying, like, the divide or delta, right, is $70. It's maybe double in price for the box. You're getting to a point where maybe it's worth buying the box and manual and selling that off because maybe you get $100 for the box then, like you probably recover some amount of money. Also, just in the world of collecting today, if like where values are holding, sealed games, and Tyler will tell you all about this, going to the moon, right? The delta between CIB and sealed used to be much smaller, and now it is much bigger. And the gulf between CIB and cart is relatively the same, but that's going to start moving as well. So
I think
CIBs
it's definitely
are going to
started moving like apart, but I mean the sealed market's crazy, so it's hard to say what is an acceptable level.
But that's what I'm saying. That delta is going to get bigger and it's going to start moving faster, especially as sealed games dry up. We've already seen more people getting into like high graded CIB games. So
yeah, God damn it, creating CIBs.
I'm just cautioning people. Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
So like, just to get into it for a second, 'cause I forgot who I was talking about this with. But like the multiplier between conditions or versions of games, it used to be like between 2 and 10, maybe. Like to go from a cart to a box, it would cost you 2 to 10 times as much. To go from a box to sealed would be like 2 to 10 times as much. And now, if you look at, I think it was Pokemon Stadium 2 just sold for like $26,000 sealed in America. So the US version was like $26,000. I just bought one. I just wanted it complete in box in Japan, but like there's so many new old stock that it was just a little bit more. It was probably like $60 for new old stock. It's like 250 times difference between the Japanese version and the American version. Like it's crazy to pay 250 times more for the same game, later version of the same game. Don't tell anyone, but yeah. So those multipliers basically don't even matter anymore. Nothing matters anymore. Pay any price for a video game, Johnny. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Life is pain, princess. Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right.
Dirty Harry, Johnny. Not that this shouldn't be a video game. It shouldn't, but why is it a video game? It is a 1990 game based on a 1971 movie.
Is that our biggest gap? It's got to be.
Absolutely, yes.
But there were other Dirty Harry movies in the 80s, right?
I believe so. All right, let's go look up the history of Dirty Harry.
You keep talking about it.
Another thing I brought up, there's a pinball machine in 1995. Like, is Dirty Harry like that much in the public conscience that they can make a pinball machine?
I don't know. He got 5 movies over about a 20-year period, 17-year period. You know, you got Dirty Harry, Magnum Force, The Enforcer, Sudden Impact in 1983, and The Deadpool in 1988. But not that Deadpool. Sorry, guys. But also an R-rated game.
Sure. Okay. I mean, is this game is the only reason this game is in the public's conscience is because of the quote, "Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?" Like, is that the entire reason the game exists? I feel like that's like making a Taxi Driver game because you talking to me. Oh, that's a cool scene. Everyone knows that scene. Let's make a video game on that.
Yes. And maybe the license was easy to get.
I mean, maybe. Then, like, why did a pinball machine come out 5 years later? Was this like a Data East game, maybe made by the same company? And they're like, well, we got that old Dirty Harry license kicking around.
Probably. All right. Do you want to tell the people how much it costs for this game? This beautiful piece of art.
All right. $10 loose, $50 complete. Oh yeah. So another thing we didn't bring up, like Nightmare on Elm Street, like double to get a complete and box copy of that game now. Friday the 13th, 10 times between a cart and a complete. This game 5 times. So Nightmare on Elm Street, relatively good deal, complete and box. Honestly, I don't think that means it's a good deal complete in box. I think that means that cartridge prices are just out of control for that game relative to everything else.
Yes.
There might be something going on with Nightmare on Elm Street that I don't understand. Maybe like a YouTuber is telling people to get cartridges or something. I don't know.
I have no idea.
What's our next game, Johnny?
Mad Max. Another weird gap. Okay, so this is a 1990 game based on a 1981 movie, but it's actually based on Road Warrior, which is Mad Max 2, and it's more Mel Gibson. Why do I keep getting stuck with the Mel Gibson games? It's like, all right, you like some Mel Gibson? You got $15 for a loose cart? This can be yours. Yay. It was an okay game. It wasn't great. It was fine. It's weird that it was made the 1990 game is based off of Mad Max. They didn't do like Thunderdome or anything. I don't know. Well, that seems weird to me.
So I don't know. I obviously not alive, Johnny, but I mean, Mad Max 2 was, it's like the most action movie I could think of before Terminator 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
Did it have that reputation back then?
It was pretty actiony. Like, because if you don't know, if you watched Mad Max 1, it's a lot different than Mad Max 2. Mad Max 1 is like the start of the apocalypse. Mad Max 2 is the apocalypse. Mad Max 3 Thunderdome, and you're just like deep into the there. You're just like, whoa, what happened?
I've not seen
Mad Max is basically just a revenge story, which has some like weird, like, I don't know, leather-clad desert warriors going on in it, just like Kink Crew got his wife and you got to fight him off. Sorry, spoilers for Mad Max.
If the costume design in Mad Max 2 did not get an Oscar, the Academy is wrong, because those leather fetish assless chaps costumes are fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyways, we should make a Nintendo game based on that.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Hey, he drives a cool car and blows shit up. Let's do it. He used to be a cop. We love games where guys used to be a cop. So let's make it a game. $15 loose for cartridge, $60 CIB. Now let's move on to something else. Total Recall.
No,
Tell me about it.
I think Mad Max is the worldliest game on our list, Johnny. This is it's an Australian movie made by a Canadian developer on a Japanese console released in America.
Yeah.
It's pretty worldly. A lot of people had to touch it for that to happen.
Yep. All right, Tyler.
Total
Someone who's
Recall.
also frequent with a lot of touching. Tell me about Total Recall.
One of the best movies on this list, Johnny. Total Recall, excellent movie. 1990 game based on a 1990 movie. They got it right. Released in the same year. No one ever talks about this game. The box art's just the movie poster.
Yeah, it's boring too. It's a boring for such a weird and interesting movie. It's got very boring movie poster and art.
Yep, $10 cartridge, $50 to $60 complete. It has a poster. Make sure you get the poster.
Gotta get to Mars, Quaid. Get to Mars.
And do you know anything about Total? There's nothing interesting I can say about the game. I can say a lot of interesting things about the movie, but nothing.
Yeah, the movie is like weird and amazing. Here's a fun fact about the game. The game does a good job of following the movie's plot.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. I wouldn't have thought that is a thing.
Yeah, because a lot of them, they don't. Like, even the first boss in this game is, Quaid fighting his wife. Sharon Stone is his wife in this movie. And it's she's the first boss level. So, and then, like, even the second stage has, like, where Quaid has to pass through, like, the big x-ray machine and you can see his skeleton and everything. Like, the second stage, you were fighting through that x-ray machine. So, it follows, you go to Mars, like... I don't believe the three-breasted woman was in it, but I can't remember. I think that's something.
There's no way.
No. But there's no way that she specifically with her splayed boobs were out. But, there may have been like a headshot of the character or like one of the background characters made to look like her face. I don't recall it, but get it? I don't recall it. I did it. But, that like weirdly as a child of the 80s and like not even just as a child, but like one of the standout moments of like this weird, like thoughtfully plotted movie, like because Total Recall has got a super interesting plot and it's got a lot of weird stuff going on. But all people take away from it is Three Boob Lady.
She's very memorable.
Sad. Yeah, that and like Johnny Cab.
I mean, people watch Demolition Man and all they get out of it is the seashells.
Yeah. How did I get here? You opened the door and you got in. That's the answer from it's a fantastic answer. Anyways, that's all I got on Total Recall.
Well, we tried to make it interesting. RoboCop 2, the disappointing follow-up to RoboCop that was it made by the same guy? I don't even know. It almost feels like RoboCop shouldn't have a sequel. I'm just going to say $20 cart, $60 complete.
It's not Paul Verhoeven. It's not the same director.
I feel like it's almost like giving the finger to his work of art that is RoboCop to make a sequel to it. What was I going to say about this? I've never. I don't have any gameplay footage in my mind. I'm going to say you play as a half man, half robot cop with a gun shooting bad guys on the streets, Johnny.
Sure.
All right, $20 cart, $60 complete, RoboCop 2, whatever.
I don't know if I mentioned Total Recall. Not that expensive. It's about $60 is like what the CIB is going for, but it can range up to like $150 game. So be careful and watch for that. Like Tyler said, watch out for that poster. But the card is like $10. All right, he did RoboCop. Let's talk about a game that has a few more fun facts. Oh my God, we're only on number 13. It's Darkman.
Whoa,
Darkman. Whoa. So Darkman is a weird movie that's got a few things going on. So the film came out in 1990. The game came out in 1991. So pretty close there. Okay. This movie has Liam Neeson before Liam Neeson was like known in the public hearts and minds of people, before he would go on to be an Oscar nominated actor for Schindler's List. He was Darkman, who had his face mostly wrapped or as the face of other people. It's also directed by Sam Raimi. So Spider-Man games, not Sam Raimi's first game, it's Darkman. It's also got Danny Elfman, whose soundtrack is featured in lots of games because Tim Burton. So you have like Nightmare Before Christmas and Beetlejuice. So it's got a lot of people who have been exposed to games here. It also has, I want to say Norma McDowell. God, she's got a TV show right now, but she is also an Oscar-winning actress. It's got like a pretty high caliber group of people working on a movie that was largely not very good. And its gimmick was, it's a scientist who got horribly disfigured and developed a compound so he could kind of change his face into anyone. And so it was like Face Off before Face Off. And yeah, it's like just a weird group of people all together. The card is about $25 to $50, but it does look like a buyout happened on all the copies between The CIB is between 50 to 120, and now the ones that are left are $300. So just so
when did they get bought out? Is it just like January? Like
yeah. It's a 2021 buyout, but that was probably continuing from 2020. So, but it's eBay only shows like the last 3 months. You can see that buyout was kind of an ongoing thing.
I think things got extra crazy in 2021. I don't know if there's one particular thing to point to. Like, I know in Pokemon it was Jake or Logan Paul, whichever one went crazy in that, but people definitely moving all their money into pop culture collectibles. And it can only end well for people who are putting like their actual life savings into this. Or debt. You missed one thing, Johnny. Darkman is another Ocean Software game ported from British Microcomputers. I believe it's a relatively well-received Spectrum game, but not as near as RoboCop is.
No one cared about this game. All right, let's
Hudson
move on.
Hawk for the Nintendo Entertainment System, 1991 game based on the 1991 movie. Why does this movie exist, Johnny? Who?
I don't know, because they need to feature Bruce Willis is weird. It's a movie that generally got panned. It's not a good game. There's not a lot of good going on here. So let's not say too much about it.
So it almost reminds me of the Shadow pinball machine, except that's like a beloved pinball machine. But like, why would you make a pinball machine based on the movie The Shadow? It's just such a strange property to think would work.
So weird they didn't make a game The Shadow, right? Oh. If you don't know, there's like a weird thing where The Shadow like was a canceled game that got made and somebody released it and like got kind of sued, or I think it was Rose Colored Games. Not sued.
Are you thinking of Shadowhawk?
Is that Shadowhawk, not Shadowman?
Shadowhawk. They got sued by the creator of the comic because they didn't have permission or something. And now it's like a rare recalled game. Yeah. Although it's a bootleg because they didn't have the rights to release it.
Yeah. Okay. I messed up.
Anyway. I'd say two interesting things about Hudson Hawk. One, like the speed runs of this game are like 6 minutes long. It's like one of the shortest games on NES. Two, the box art for both copies is awful. So the US box art, it's got a giant Sony ImageSoft logo in the top left, and it looks like the rest of the box art used the Sony ImageSoft logo colors to try to match the logo, which is super dumb in my opinion. And then the PAL box art is the movie box art, which is Bruce Willis's dumbass face. It looks really bad.
It's real dumb. And then, Tyler, how much is this game? If I wanted to buy this game, should I buy this game?
No, because it's Hudson Hawk. $15 cart, $65 complete, and you thought it was very novel that you can get it for $165 to $200 sealed.
Yeah, there's a couple of sealed Yeah, there was a couple of sealed copies available. I'm just saying, like, the way sealed prices look on everything, the fact that there's just like some chilling on eBay. Not that they're like gradable quality or anything necessarily. I just thought it was interesting that they were there. Anyways, let's get into this mess that we don't know how exactly if it should count. This was like, does it count for us?
Yep.
For R-rated movies. So, but we put it on here because Arnold needs another appearance, and that's Conan. So the box, if you read it, just says Conan, but it is called Conan, The Mysteries of Time? ? Like you see it referenced as that in the Wikipedia and all over, but I didn't see another game. Like it's only this version is technically only released as the NES, but it's not the movie, and it's barely based on Conan. So it is weird. So this game came out in 1991. The Conans came out, Destroyer in 1982, or Barbarian in 1982, Destroyer in 1984. Conan is, actually the work of Robert E. Howard from the 30s. He was a contemporary of H.P. Lovecraft. They even shared some monsters back and forth. They wrote to each other. They were friends. There's a microcomputer game of it, and it's called The History in the Making. But that's not, it's or Port of Myth, History in the Making, but it's not, this game isn't just a port of that. So it's a really weird game. They were just like, we're making just a Conan game.
I think they just, so Myth has like a guy with blue hair, and they just turned it into like an all orange guy, and they're like, that's Conan.
Did they? Yeah. Okay. I wasn't 100%.
I watched, I watched like like 10 seconds of a long play of the microcomputer version, I'm like, yep, that's the NES game.
Okay.
So
all right. From the box art and everything else, you can't tell. It's a strange game to include. Like, this isn't based. I don't think anything happens around the movies, and it's not based on the cartoon because the cartoon Conan the Adventurer came out in 1992, which I love. It's got a great theme song. So go listen to that.
So the weird thing is, so I don't think this is based on the movie, so I really don't think this would count, but I think it was made because the movies made the character popular, so it's hard to say. Because a lot of these aren't like specifically based on the movies, they're basically just like loose interpretations of the character and some stuff happens around them.
I mean, just don't disregard the appeal of Arnold Schwarzenegger either, right? Especially during that time. He was like one of the world's biggest stars.
Sure.
So... You know, and kids
if they
loved
got him on the box, I bet this game would have sold a lot more copies.
Yeah, but like, you know, so I mean, I just think they're leveraging that. It is kind of an expensive cart, though, just so you know. You know, carts are between like $50 and $80. At the minimum, like as high as $100 in some cases they've sold for. Box copies, you know, reaching from $180 to $300 for very nice complete ones. So just know that that's what you're getting into on Conan.
Guys, if you're still collecting loose NES and you're not like 90% of the way there, like reconsider if it's worth it, if it matters at these prices. I like carts because they're cheap. Paying $100 for Conan on NES, a game that's awful and no one cares about. Oh, like not that there won't be games that you have to do that for when you're getting a set, but just like, man, these dicey games have really been going up in price.
They sure have. Now let's get into the next one, though.
Die Hard. Probably the first game I think of when I think of R-rated NES movies. One of the most historically, collectively interesting games. This has always been at like the upper tier of uncommon NES games. It's not like super rare, but people have always paid a lot of money for this. 1991 game based on the 1988 movie. So this game was released after Die Hard 2, but we're going to give him a pass on that because... It is based on like Nakatomi Plaza. You're playing Bruce Willis in the building. There are 3 different games for Die Hard. There's a Commodore version, a TurboGrafx version, and an NES version. Completely different games, all developed entirely separately. That's my fun fact about Die Hard. And it's like $150 for a cartridge and $400 complete in box now. Cool game. Collectible game, I will say, because like my opinion of what is collectible is like if people thought it was collectible like 15 years ago, then I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a collectible game. If people have decided it's a worthless game that will be collectible now, I'm like usually hesitant, like I don't know about this game, guys.
Yeah, it's weird, but we're kind of stuck in that old bubble, right? Because we've been doing it for too long. So, you know, it's just something to be aware of.
Like, that's the point of my video. Like, I'm not trying to adapt to the market. Like, a little bit, I'm adapting to the market in what I buy. But since new people are coming in and trying to say this is the new important thing, I'm just disregarding everything that everyone's saying and deciding for myself what I think are the important things to buy.
Agreed. Okay. So,
agreed. And you're buying... GBA games that come with toys, the important things to buy.
Well, to be fair, you know, I've always loved those things.
I know.
Like, you can look at my collection.
It is very fun.
Yeah, like you can see my collecting is consistent. I collect set stuff, and then I collect weird variants with little things in them, little doodads, because I like that sort of thing. Yeah. And then if it looks like it could be a Halloween game, I also buy those. And I've expanded my borders on that. Yeah, I've even bought computer game stuff, which is weird. It's a weird world for me now, Tyler, but I just want things that look like Halloween.
I'm gonna keep trying to show you big box games that you have to buy.
I will buy. I already have a save search for Mystery House.
Ooh, well, okay, come on. If you win a Mystery House, I will be very impressed.
All right. Well, we'll see. But I mean, it's also now on my radar, which is a thing that was not before, right?
I guess. Yeah.
Anyways, because I apparently am a shill for Mel Gibson, here's Lethal Weapon. I don't know why I keep getting Mel Gibson. Anyways, so this is kind of a late release game. The film came out in 1987. This game came out in 1982. But this game is not based on a single Lethal Weapon film. This is more based on the series. Like you can even see Joe Pesci's character Leo Getz is on the box art, kind of peeking back from like Glover and Mel Gibson. He's like in the back of them. Real annoying character. Lethal Weapon were like a big franchise. It even got a TV series like not so long ago. So I guess Lethal Weapon is still a big driver. Anyways, a CIB on this game is about $80, and then it goes up to about 150. Be careful. Like for some reason, on a lot of the games we just talked about, the only good ones are power-up video game ones, and we'll talk about power-up video games a little bit later and why anything from them should be taken with a grain of salt.
Power-up video games sucks.
They do suck.
It sucks that they have the only copy available of some games that I want, but you should be 100% desperate if you're buying anything from power-up video games.
Yeah, like it should be the only copy, and then has been the only copy for a year, and then like I get it, that's when you like fold.
But then I get it, and they ship it in a bubble mailer, and it's worse condition than the photo. All of their photos show better condition games than what they actually ship out.
Yeah, well, and they also have their own skill. We'll cover it in a minute, but you should know just on power up video games. This is a quick tip in case I forget to say it later. They will ship to you in a bubble mailer unless you pick in the checkout option the higher shipping. So, because they like to advertise free shipping, but if you add $2, they'll ship it in a box, but you have to select it. It does not matter if the game is $500, they will ship it in a bubble mailer. And then if you're like, this was damaged because you shipped it in a bubble mailer, they'll tell you, well, you should have had it shipped in a box, even though it is their job to get you the game in the condition it is showed. So F all of you eBay people who think that is not true. It is your job to pack it well enough that it arrives to me in a nice condition. So be considerate with your price. If you if you feel like free shipping isn't the thing to do, because that's like build the shipping into your price, or don't do free shipping and just put like an absorbent amount of shipping so everyone knows they're going to get a game in the right. It is less of a headache. No one wants to fight for 20 or 30 minutes or a couple days with someone, which could have been prevented for $3 extra. That's all I'm saying. Just general.
They're destroying the condition of games they send out. They are power. I am pro reseller. Like if you are someone going to thrift stores and garage sales and selling games you find there, like 100% you were doing a service to the hobby. Power up video games is a plague on the hobby.
Yeah, they are. Well, I got a story. So we'll like I said, we'll go later. I got desperate and I made a mistake. But Lethal Weapon card is $40.
If you want to play a Lethal Weapon game, you can play Hideo Kojima's Police Knots on the Sega Saturn and probably a bunch of other stuff.
And that's a far more interesting and collectible game.
It is. It is a total Lethal Weapon. It's like Lethal Weapon in space, kind of. So yeah, apparently the main characters are like 100% ripoffs of.
I think you can play it on PS1 Japanese too.
Oh, sure, yeah. So I forgot, like one of the versions was recently translated. Not recent, it was like a couple of years ago now. But there was a translated version one, and then the better version got translated a while afterwards. I don't remember. Anyway, I played Police Knots. It's not really worth playing. It's nowhere near as good as Snatcher.
No.
That's my recommendation. Like, it's an okay Lethal Weapon-ish thing.
That's an okay Lethal Weapon and not a good Snatcher. Go play Snatcher.
Go play Snatcher. Snatcher is so good. Johnny, you just got a Mel Gibson game. I'm going to get The Terminator. Which, the Terminator on NES, 1992 video game based on a 1984 movie. 1992, this game was released after Terminator 2. They made a Terminator 1 video game. And this wasn't the only platform it was released on, because I'm just thinking now, they made the Sega CD version of the Terminator, and there was never a T2 on Sega CD. It's crazy to me that this exists. Like, they thought it was so important to go back to the 1984 movie after the sequel was released. It's so weird.
The first one just did well, or like projected numbers were good, and they're like, let's keep capitalizing.
Sure.
Wait, were Judgment Day and Terminator made by the same company though? They probably weren't.
I don't remember who made Terminator. I only know who made T2 because I can't remember. I'll check. You look that up, Johnny. I will mention that in 1990, Journey to Silius was supposed to be a Terminator game, but then they lost the license for whatever reason, which is weird because people like Journey to Silius.
Man, Sunsoft, this is another Sunsoft, like, with Sunman, and now we got this.
Wait, did Sunsoft make Terminator?
No, the Journey to Silius.
Oh, yeah, so they made Journey to Silius. Yeah, they're kings of losing licenses, Sunsoft. Yeah. Interesting thing about the Terminator, besides its weird release date, $40 cartridge. I'm good. $400 to $600 complete in box. Like Terminator complete in box is up there.
That blew my mind when you told me
I did
this.
not know it was that up there. Power Up Video Games has one in good shape for $390. And just a spoiler, Power Up Video Games, they say everything is in great shape. Great shape means completely wrecked. So if something is in good shape, it's like not even worth looking at. But yeah.
By the way, this was done by Mindscape. But if you look at the splash screen when you start the game, it does say Sunsoft.
Oh, that's interesting. So they made Journey to Silius, and then they're just like, yeah, we're just going to do it again 2 years later. We'll make the actual Terminator game. And I haven't played it. It's probably way worse than Journey to Silius.
Oh, wait. This Sunsoft one might be someone...
Oh, they hacked together the
I think
Terminator
they hacked
from
it together.
That makes sense.
Yeah, disregard.
Disregard everything Johnny just said. Also, we haven't been going over who makes all these games. If it's not an LJN game and it's not a British computer game like an Ocean game, it's probably Mindscape. Like those companies are the ones who put out all of these games.
And that and Sony ImageWorks is another big player, but Sony ImageWorks, they worked with a lot of different people. So even if it says Sony ImageWorks or Mindscape, like they farmed out the development to someone else. Usually.
And like we've talked about it before. So the first game we were talking about, Jaws, that was Atlas, but they subcontracted it to Westone. But like Friday the 13th, it is developed by Atlas, and I don't know enough about development that either means like Atlas guys actually made it or they just subcontracted it out to some other company, because those subcontractors weren't credited. Old video games, a nightmare. Thank God Moby Games exists to try to keep some of this straight, but I don't know how much is unknowable.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about T2 Judgment Day as well, but Tyler, I need to walk
because
out
you
the
don't
room
care
for a
about
minute.
Jeff Fallen music, Johnny? Because that's the only thing interesting I have to say about T2 Judgment Day.
Also, I need to walk out of the room for 2 minutes. So if you want to talk about that,
I will try to talk about this for 1 minute. Let's see. T2 Judgment Day, the 1992 video game, same year as Terminator, based on the 1991 movie. Software Creations game. I love Software Creations only because I love bringing up that they made Blaster Master 2 on the Sega Genesis, one of my most nostalgic childhood games. But also importantly, Software Creations employed the Fallen brothers, Tim Fallen, one of the most notable chiptune composers, I think. If you don't know Tim Fallen, I will just say look up Pictionary and Silver Surfer to keep it on NES, because everyone here collects for the NES. Silver Surfer and Pictionary, two of the best soundtracks on NES. Horrible games, but Tim Fallen knows how to make chiptune music. Jeff Fallen, his brother, I believe makes music in a similar style, just based on the T2 soundtrack. And I don't want to diss Jeff Fallen music here. Not as good as Tim Fallen music, but still some very, very good NES music. It's a $10 cartridge. T2 is everywhere. It's $50 complete in box. Make sure you get the poster. This is not a beloved game. I say, make sure you get the poster. This is not a beloved game. Like, that's part of it, but just no one cares about the T2 game. Considering how mega blockbuster T2 is as a movie, did not have good video game. Like, the arcade game, it's memorable. Everyone played it, but it's not good. I guess I'll go back to an earlier point. Dirty Harry, another Mindscape game, was not made by Data East, who made the pinball machine. If someone knows why there's a 1990 Dirty Harry video game and I believe a 1995 Dirty Harry pinball machine, what is going on there? Oh, that was a Williams pinball machine? Am I out of my mind? Oh my God. Williams made Dirty Harry. To be clear, Williams, like, maybe the most beloved pinball manufacturer, especially of the 90s. That's the coveted era of pinball machines. And one of them is Dirty Harry. Like, they also made Johnny Mnemonic, which is weird premise to make a pinball machine on. But man, that Johnny Mnemonic game, super good. Does not matter what license you get for a pinball machine. If it plays well, you guys want to talk about pinball machines? There's a RoboCop pinball machine, I believe from 1988. That one, I'm almost sure, is Data East. Let's look it up together, though. That is, it's a 1989 pinball machine from Data East. Not a good game. I believe it has a jump. There's a ramp in the back where it jumps from one habit trail to another habit trail. And if your game is not set up properly, it won't make that jump, and it takes all the fun out of the pinball machine. And hey, if you're gonna buy some pinball machines, I'm just gonna say buy a newer Stern. If you're like the graphics whore of video games and you just want like the newest, flashiest stuff, the Stern games, they play very long, which is not something I prefer. I like shorter games, but those games are very flashy. They'll have a license you like. They got all bells and whistles. But man, if you are into some real pinball, get yourself a 90s Williams game or like an 80s Bally game. Get something nice and difficult. Don't get RoboCop because you like RoboCop. Don't get some stupid Data East game, some Sega game because it says Star Wars on it. You want to get like the shittiest license you can. You want to get Congo. There's a Congo pinball machine by Williams. It's fucking awesome. Johnny Mnemonic, awesome.
The Shadow. Did you ever talk about the
Shadow? We're just talking about pinball machines here, Johnny. I'm trying to think of something to talk about while we're waiting
Dracula
for you to come back.
Machine.
I went to pinball buying advice.
Yeah, the Dracula pinball machine, also pretty cool.
Dracula, excellent pinball machine. One to really work on your skills because the most important skill I think to learn in pinball is making specific shots. And in Dracula, you want to stack your multi-balls in a particular way, and an important thing to do is to not shoot one of your multi-balls while you're waiting to build up the first two multi-balls, because you want to start all three together. So if you're just flailing away in Dracula, you won't do as well as if you're actually making the shots you're trying to make. Important skill to build, Johnny. Very tough game, too. Oh. Anyway, what were we even talking about? We were talking about T2. Just started rambling off for no reason.
Yeah. No, you were going to talk about T2, and then I was going to come back.
Oh, yeah. T2 doesn't matter. Don't buy it. You can talk about RoboCop 3 now, Johnny.
RoboCop 3. All right. 1992 game based on... how does this make sense, Tyler?
What? You tell me how it makes sense. It's a 1992 video game based on a 1993 movie, and it was released before the movie.
Wow.
I think that just shows how much RoboCop 3 doesn't matter, because they wouldn't do that with like the Avatar 2 game, but they're like, RoboCop 3, ship it, we got it. I'm not going to hold on to this.
And then it says computer version started development in 1990. This is crazy.
That's when RoboCop 2 was released, just to keep our timeline straight. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. So it's a $200 CIB game with a poster. The crazy thing though is that RoboCop 3 has like a lot of appeal in the collector's market. I don't know how this happened or why, but people are aware of its existence. Unlike RoboCop 1, which they kind of ignore, and same with kind of RoboCop 2, but RoboCop 3, people are interested in. So, be careful on RoboCop 3. You have anything you want to add about RoboCop 3?
Not really. You already said it, that the high-end collectors want it for whatever reason. I guess it's rare sealed.
Yeah.
My thing I found while looking up stuff for this episode, there is a DOS RoboCop 3 game. It's a first-person driving game. Don't know why that exists. Didn't know it existed. Someone go play it and tell me how bad it is.
If you want a cart, you're looking about $40. Okay, so
cool.
Just you cart collectors.
Not terrible compared to some of these other carts, Johnny. Cliffhanger is a $50 cartridge. I'm looking at our next thing. What is going on? Cliffhanger, Sly Stallone.
A real weird one.
1993 game based on the 1993 movie. So you put very late release here. In my opinion, NES, so Super Nintendo came out in 1991. If you weren't like a cool kid, you probably had your Nintendo into 1992. Plenty of games released through 1992. If you didn't get a Super Nintendo for Christmas of 1992, you are officially an uncool kid. And I'm going to say basically any NES game from 1993 onwards is a late release for the NES, which Cliffhanger would be one of them.
Yeah, but it was also late by 1993 standards because it actually came out in November. The Super Nintendo one came out in October, but the NES one was delayed until November. Also, just something for you guys to be aware of, there are a lot of these games here that like Cliffhanger, Alien 3, which we'll talk about soon, but they like came out in this window where they're also on the Super Nintendo. So they're like kind of early-ish Super Nintendo, but late Nintendo. So just be aware of that. And a lot of them also had releases on like the Amiga, ZX Spectrum, like, Game Gear, Genesis. So a lot of these games cross a broad pool, but we are very, very intently just focusing on NES. So in case anyone was curious why we are avoiding talking about the multiple iterations of these games, because we just want to talk about the.
I mean, I think the NES set
the
is the
NES.
cool one to collect just because it's NES. I mean, I don't. There is an R-rated SNES set and Genesis set. I've just never actually thought about it.
Well, and the SNES set is much less. So where this is like 23 games, the Super Nintendo set is probably 7 or less.
Okay.
Or we'll say 10 or less. I'll hedge a little, but it's going to be lower than that. But you're going to get like Dracula, Alien, Cliffhanger, T2, Lethal Weapon. I can just go through. Not Darkman, not Total Recall, not Mad Max, no Nightmare on Elm Streets, no Friday the 13th, no Untouchables, no Predator, no RoboCop, Jaws. So I think I mentioned them, and that's less than 10. And then it probably has like a couple that are unique to the Super Nintendo, but not many, because by that time, Nintendo was cleaning up like what kind of games were allowed to be released because of, going to Congress and being kind of whiners.
RoboCop versus Terminator, that kind of counts.
Yep. Predator versus Alien kind of counts.
We did it. That's your microcast. So you want to collect Super Nintendo R-rated movie games?
Hey, woo. Anyways, tell me more about Cliffhanger.
I know nothing about Cliffhanger.
Well, it's a Sylvester
uncommon.
Stallone
It's
movie.
$50 card, 250 to 400 complete, Johnny.
Do you want to see John Lithgow as a villain? Do you want to see Sylvester Stallone hang? Do you want to see like Sylvester Stallone like hanging from like icy peaks with just climbing gear?
So I've never seen Cliffhanger, but all the footage of that movie I've seen is literally Sylvester Stallone hanging on a cliff. Is it that on the nose, Johnny?
Yeah. So, God, what happens to that movie? Mind you, I have seen this once, and I saw it in theaters in its release. So, 1993 in Nevada, in a very tiny theater. I think the plane crashes or something, or Sylvester Stallone crashes the plane on the mountain, or that's where the base is. I don't remember, but there's a lot of things that happen, basically all on this mountain. But he's also like mostly shirtless too, a lot of it. So it's real weird.
I didn't even realize that. Like he is not dressed appropriately to be climbing like alpine mountains.
Yeah. So
I guess movies don't really have to make sense, Johnny.
No, they don't. But tell us how expensive this late release game is.
I already did. You missed it.
$400 for a CIB?
Yep.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's getting harder to find. But the Super Nintendo one is like relatively common. Weirdly, this was when I was like starting back up in video games. I had like before I was even collecting video games, just like in a box of like your child things. I don't know why, but I had a CIB Cliffhanger. I think I like maybe found it at a garage sale or something before because I was like 16 or something probably when I picked that up. Like the only box stuff or the only Nintendo game stuff that I even had from my childhood or even my teenage years was like a couple of Super Nintendo games, my Final Fantasy 2 and my like Super Nintendo. And then like this, like in my mid-20s when I started collecting was this weird ass complete nice version of Cliffhanger.
Huh.
So yeah, Cliffhanger stands out to me. It's like I saw it in the theater. I had a weird CIB. It's one of my oldest CIB copy games. Yeah, I don't know why. Cliffhanger.
As a kid, I would only keep the cardboard box if it was just like a really nice box. So like Pokemon Stadium and Star Fox 64, it's like, oh man, these are nice boxes. I don't want to throw these out. So those are the boxes I had. And like Sega Genesis stuff, because those are all nice.
Yeah, like that, the only other box I had was Star Wars on the Super Nintendo, Super Star Wars.
Important. And weirdly, as a Star Wars fan, Johnny.
Yeah, and like weirdly, a Star Wars manual. I still have them. They're still together. So I've got the Super Star Wars box and manual, and then I have the NES Star Wars manual in that box as well. Weird. They're just like folded flat, and they're just sitting in there. And I found them in a box of my stuff, and I've had them since the mid '90s.
Is it JVC or copies. THQ, Johnny?
JVC.
Good taste for a teenager there.
Well, I think I got it around release.
Okay.
Because it was Star Wars. Anyways, no one cares. Let's talk about Alien 3.
Let's talk about something people care about, Johnny. Alien 3. Beloved Alien movie. After two kind of mediocre movies in Alien and Alien 2, the mediocre horror movie and the mediocre horror action movie.
They really turned up the fire on Alien 3.
Was that a joke as it gets burned at the end?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. I picked up what you put down.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's not Alien 3, not a great film. Could be worse. Could be Prometheus. Fight me, Prometheus fans. That movie is garbage. It's garbage in so many ways.
Oh
I will tell you all the ways that is actually a horrible movie. Come at me and let me blow your mind with how fucking terrible that film is. Come at me. Don't talk to me about beautiful cinematography. That storyline is garbage. Damon Lindelof is a crime against humanity. That movie should be put in the garbage. Okay? Get out of here with your Prometheus bullshit. All right, sorry. Prometheus makes me very...
Let's make this podcast about how Prometheus is a bad movie. I'm totally on board. It's a movie about some scientists going to space, and they only meet each other. They meet each other after cryosleep. This wasn't some years-long planned trip. They just put some scientists on a ship, they wake up, and then they start having to introduce themselves to each other, John.
Yeah, and then, like, being totally weird. Like, let's talk about the scientist who's afraid of everything, but then finds the alien eggs, and then is like, sees one open up, and he's like, oh, come here, cute little baby.
Let me put my face up close to this.
Yeah.
Also, you know why he can put his face up close to this? Because they take their helmets off across the universe, because they're just like, nah, it feels like it's safe. Because scientists and space explorers would do that.
Yeah, also, the head scientist, the guy who's been out here this whole time, like, waiting for this moment, he just suddenly becomes like a weird psycho. He's just like, yeah, okay, I think all this is fine. I'll just suddenly not be a scientist anymore and just go on my gut feelings now. Like, this movie is such dog shit. And then, like, the creators that they find, so stupid, right? Also, like, if you find in your life, if you ever go to some weird space and you see weird-looking egg pods that are, like, glistening and slimy, I don't know, maybe don't go by them. Maybe leave.
Yeah.
I don't know, or maybe have enough scientific equipment with you to kind of maybe find out if you should be looking at those things. That whole movie is asinine. Look, I can suspend my disbelief for a lot of things, but that movie is such trash, it hurts my feeling. And also the creators look really stupid, so get out of my face.
I like pro wrestling, so when I can't enjoy something because it's so stupid and unbelievable, then it means it's really stupid and unbelievable. The cave mapping guy got lost in the cave. They brought him across the universe. It was like an expedition plan, but like the richest guy on planet Earth, right? And he must have got like the best cartographer on fucking planet Earth, and he got lost in a cave. Johnny, that's so stupid.
Tyler, I'm glad you were with me on this. So my friends and I we saw this movie, and we're like, how do you feel about that? And we're like, And then as we started to talk about it and talk through it, it got worse and worse and worse. And now when we talk about it, it's just so, it went from like, I don't know, to like one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Trash.
Compare it to like Total Recall, one of the best science fiction movies ever. You have to have the science part in science fiction. It's half the thing of science fiction. Science.
Yeah, like, hey, Quaid going and then like yanking a tracking device out of his nose, weird cloning facilities, losing your memory, colonies on Mars. I'll take it. I bought in. I'm completely with you. 3 boob ladies? Sure. Is she an alien? I don't know, but she got 3 boobs because I guess she's a mutant. All right, that's cool. Why is she a mutant? Not exactly sure. Mars radiation? Doesn't matter to me. This is an interesting movie. Prometheus? Not. It is pretentious garbage.
It's just, it's pretentious garbage. It puts out a bunch of questions and then doesn't answer them, and people automatically are like, wow, it's so deep. It didn't answer all the questions. It's just like, fuck, you can't just not connect any dots and be like, wow, this movie can be whatever you want.
It's David Lindelof. He is the problem. He, like, J.J. Abrams and him wrote the end of Lost, right? Like, he was a head writer in Lost. So I put everything on David Lindelof. Like Ridley Scott clearly effed up here. Also, like trying to pretend this wasn't an alien movie when it is an alien movie. So stupid. Just, ugh. No, I want none of it. Anyways, Alien.
That's our show, guys. Thanks for coming to the Prometheus podcast.
The Prometheus Sucks Fight Us podcast. 1992 game. Our film. The Genesis game came out in 92, but the NES version didn't come out till 1993, just so you know, on Alien 3.
Late release alert!
Yeah, whoop whoop. Late release. CIB is $150. It's a $40 cart though, so you're like in that weird I should probably just buy a CIB version. Also, there's only one good copy for sale, and unfortunately, it's our friends at Power Up Video Games who can go eat a bag of baby poop.
I think if it's $100 more, I could see buying the cartridge. If it's like 3 times the price, but when it's only double the price, that's when it just doesn't make sense for me to buy a cartridge.
Well, I mean, it's like $40 or $100. Like if you're gonna get a nice cart and then like medium box and instructions for $100, like maybe just make that jump.
Sure. I mean, in this game, it's like pretty hard to find complete at all. So this would not be a no-brainer, I don't think, considering the only one for sale is from Power Up Video Games, which is literally the nightmare scenario.
Yep. All right. Tell me about another bad movie that I can defend.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, Johnny, but that's like a book from the 19th century, I thought.
Yeah, it sure is. It's gothic horror.
Dracula is.
It's gothic horror. It's old enough.
All right. 1992 movie. That's a Keanu Reeves movie, right?
It is a Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder and Anthony Hopkins. And most importantly, Gary Oldman. But
1993 video game.
Keanu Reeves is also an action star. So like everybody in all of these things was just like an action star. So it's weird.
This is a $60 cartridge. Like this is a late release, but like I see this game around.
But find it on the box. Finding the box is pretty challenging.
Sure. And then $100 to $200 complete in box. I guess it's all over the place. Made by Travelers Tell Games. Johnny, not Tale.
I think I spelled it wrong.
Made by Travelers Tale Games, who make
Travelers
Lego
Tale
games now.
Yeah, they basically, this was the second game they made, and then they somewhere around mid-90s, late 90s, when they started making Lego games, that's what they do now. But this was one of their first games, so I thought that was cool because I always see it, Lego, and this is not Lego.
Are they European?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm just there's you could almost tell sometimes, especially with games from the 80s and 90s, like Europeans, Americans, and Japanese make games in such different ways. Like the classic thing to make fun of with European games is they like having water droplets fall from the ceiling that hurt you for some reason. I don't know what was going on in Europe that became a hazard, but European games love doing that.
I hate that.
I hate that because I kind of don't like European games. Because they never feel as good as Japanese games. I don't know anything about this NES version of Dracula, though. I have played the Sega CD version, which not a quality game, Johnny. Not a quality game. Oh,
so again, a lot of these games that are in this crossover time frame between Genesis and Super Nintendo, they also typically got Sega CD releases too, where they added a couple extra modes. Like Cliffhanger is a Sega CD game, which got a couple extra things. There's just the Sega CD game compared to the Genesis game, we're usually mostly the same, except the Sega CD game added one aspect that only the Sega CD could do or something. So again,
I haven't played the Genesis version. There's no way they did this on the Genesis. So the Sega CD game, it's a platformer, but the background is entirely pre-rendered. So it's a video file that plays. It's like a platformer game, but the video file plays as the background as you're walking left to right. Which it looks amazing, but the hit detection is garbage because that's how they did it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah.
The cool thing is, there are a shitload of these Dracula games, but they're all either entirely different, like Sega CD versus NES, they're not even remotely the same game. Or the platforms make them different enough where it's interesting to have them all. Whereas, an Xbox One X, Series X versus a PlayStation 5 game versus a computer game, they're all going to be the exact same thing. That's why collecting modern stuff just is not nearly as interesting to me.
I agree. Yeah, because before it used to be now games, when it's a cross-platform game, it's just all the same stuff, unless it was the 3DS version or whatever. But now that's back then it was, you got different experiences.
And which even Game Boy and GBA, a lot of times there are games that have the same box art as another game, but they're a different game. And it's a
totally different game. Yep. Anyways, that's it for the R-rated set. 23 games. And now we have a couple of other ones we'll let you decide on.
Don't bring your kids back into the room yet. We do have some bonus games to talk about. Johnny, you wanted to bring up Cool World, which is decidedly not an R-rated movie game. It's a PG-13 game.
It is PG-13.
It's just a raunchy PG-13 movie.
Yeah, it's just like a weird, like there's, if you don't know about Cool World, it's about Holly Wood, who is the main character, who's an animated version of Kim Basinger, and Brad Pitt is in it, and it was directed by Bashki, so who did like the Hobbit movies and like Flight of Dragons and stuff, like Rankin and Bass movies. This is Bashki. It's him. So, oh god, who's the lead in Usual Suspects is like a guy fresh out of jail, and like, but he's like an animator, and he animates. There's like an animated world that exists in a parallel to the real world, and she wants to become real, and so she like gets through the world, and you can pull people back. It's weird, and it's like a little bit sexualized. There's just some like strange stuff going on in this movie. There like definitely was a cut of this version that was probably R, and then got pulled down to whatever it is.
That seems like it must have. Like I can't imagine a world where that wasn't the case.
Yeah. So that's why I put it in the questionable, like, especially the way they draw Kim Basinger was like, you know, Kim Basinger, when you talk about like early crushes, people talk about like their sitcom crushes. For me, because of Batman, it was like in '89, it was like Kim Basinger was everything. So they made a Cool World movie. I was there for it and regretted it. Yeah. Not great.
Okay,
movie.
I'm on the Wikipedia page of Cool World. Absolutely, this was written for an R rating, and then Paramount's like, "How about PG-13 for this fucking movie?" Like, it doesn't work as a PG-13 movie. It's such a weird adult theme.
Yeah. So, like, one of the neat things about it is it has like this, like the old school animation from like 40s and 50s cartoons, like laced over it, but also the animation doesn't make any sense. It was like they just threw animation over scenes, like, in absence of like what was going on in the script or happening. Also, there's stories of this movie about how shitty the production was and like how many things had to change. But anyways, yeah, Cool World is a game that it's like your secret R-rated pick, you know. So if you want one, you could add it to this set. It definitely was supposed to be. Like officially it's PG-13, but like, come on.
I'm guessing that's pretty uncommon on NES because who would buy that? I know it's uncommon on Game Boy.
Yeah, it's a harder game to find in both. I can look it up real quick if you want to tell the people about the next game.
I just wanted to shout out Golgo 13. It's free. I mean, it's based on manga, but there was a Golgo 13 movie, maybe multiple Golgo 13 movies, released before this game was released, and it is violent and full of sex and rape and people's eyeballs exploding and just horrible things. Strange property to base a Nintendo game on. Infamously, there is a scene where the character has sort of has implied sex. He meets up with someone in a hotel, and then there's a scene where like the lights go out. Great game. One of my favorite NES games. I don't think anyone else actually likes it. Golgo 13 might be one to bring up. Johnny, you still looking stuff up?
Well, I can tell you. So the poster for this game is a little uncommon. Like I see copies with the poster on NES, but I'm not sure if it's the exact same poster that came with the Super Nintendo one because it's on both systems. A little hard to find. It's about a $200 game though. The carts are a little less, you know, but not enough less. So like if you find a Cool World cart, like it's pretty uncommon. It's like $100 cart at least. And I see people listing it for like close to 150, but sometimes the game sells for 200. Sometimes it sells for 400. So just be careful when you're buying this game if you want this game. And then like if you want a sealed one, there's one for 1,000 or best offer. But yeah, it's a really weird movie. I don't think I ever played the game though, so I would be curious to see what kind of game it actually is.
Sure. And then, so the Game Boy version, there's one on eBay, 0 in solds. There's like an OK CIB for $400. And the way I remember that that's a hard game to find is because Cool Ball is one of the hardest games to find on Game Boy. And I remember that both of the Cool games are pretty hard to find.
Yeah. It looks like the Game Boy one gets the same poster. So it's like, I'm
Is it
wondering if
folded
it's
in the same dimensions though?
Yeah, I think so. So just look out for that.
Temple of Doom, Johnny. Why is this on the list? Because Indiana Jones is violent?
Well, because this is actually a PG movie, but it was like one of the games they made the case for PG-13. I don't think it's an R-rated game. I just thought it's interesting to just bring up because it is kind of violent and it's got some horrible like scenes in it, kind of scary for kids. It's a weird, like, it's not weird that they made a game for it. It's Indiana Jones. Like, of course they were going to try and make a game for it. It's sad that they didn't do a good job on any platform that they put it on, including arcades. It's also, if you don't know, and this, like, as a kid really threw me off, but Temple of Doom comes technically before Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's a prequel. First one, then this is, second one comes up, but it's technically time frame before that. So if you're wondering why they don't line up, that's why. Because as a kid, I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And then I learned as an adult that it was supposed to be a prequel. Sure, Indiana Jones fun fact.
Good fun fact. Bad bonus game because I know it's PG, but it would clearly be a PG-13 movie. And Last Crusade was a PG-13 movie. Those movies are fun. They're not that violent. Great movies. Well,
like if Last Crusade is PG-13, how does Temple of Doom compare to Last Crusade? Like way more violent, way scarier.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
no,
it's just the ratings.
There's so much violent crap. You're like making me think these days, would Temple of Doom be an R-rated movie? Like, there's no way. I feel like our ratings aren't just based on, like, well, first of all, Americans, their tolerance for violence is unlimited, but it's also so much based on tone. Like, that the tone of Temple of Doom is not such that, like, it would horrify kids to the point where it has to be R, I think. But I don't know.
Right.
I don't know anything about rating movies. Movie rating sucks. Get rid of PG-13. PG-13 all it exists is to ruin movies, especially horror movies. I hate it.
All right, let's talk about this last one, or these last two.
One. We put the Godzilla games. So there's Godzilla and Godzilla 2 on NES, both games that no one cares about or likes.
We just basically want to point out that these exist. We know
sure,
that.
They do exist. So I don't think any of the Godzilla... Are there R-rated Godzilla movies?
I don't know. Because they were so old, like most of them. Old like B movies. I didn't know if they got R ratings. I don't know enough about that. But I just didn't want to be added by people being like, Godzilla, you forgot those.
Like, is Shin Godzilla an R-rated movie?
I don't know. That's the second newest one, right?
Yes.
We can look it up, but I'll talk to you about
I want to know, Johnny. But yeah, there's no way. Like, the early Godzilla movies, they're a little goofy, and the R rating didn't exist back then, and there were Japanese movies. But more interestingly, Johnny, unless you have something to say about Godzilla and Godzilla 2, the Godzilla 2 is kind of expensive. Blues Brothers.
PG-13 looks like their standard ratings for Godzilla movies.
Okay. Godzilla 2000 on Game Boy Color, Johnny. Pick it up. Great game.
Okay.
I'm lying. Blues Brothers, a game that was on the list and we took it off the list. 1992 game. The movie came out in 1980. Looking into the game, it has nothing to do with the movie. So the movie is very specific. They're on a mission from God and they're going to save an orphanage. In the video game, they're just like going to a concert and running away from the cops. So it's just based on the band The Blues Brothers. And I thought that was interesting.
They're just like basic bandits.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
a Titus
it's a weird
game,
movie.
So they didn't make that many of them because it's bad.
Also a very collectible publisher, though.
I mean, yes, because Titus games are generally hard to find. If you're going to pick a hard to find publisher, pick Atlas or Treasure, someone who makes beloved hard to find games, or like niche hard to find games, not just bad games that didn't sell very well. That's my opinion.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it's a fact that they are hard to find. All right.
Yep. Then those are our bonus games. That's a $40 card, $75 complete. Go get Blues Brothers, I guess. It's got good box art. It's cartoony. Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
Johnny, are we done? R-rated movie NES games?
Yeah, I think that's it. So
breezy 2 hours?
Yep. There was 23 games with a few bonus ones. Really, I would count Cool World of that list and maybe Go 13. The rest I would ignore if you were like really looking at the set.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue for Blues Brothers if you really wanted to, because it comes from an R-rated property, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so many of the games are like not 100% based on the movies that you could probably throw Blues Brothers in there, but whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Move on to the second part of the show, Johnny.
Please do.
The second half of the show.
Yes. Nope. The second part of the show. Yeah. This is the part where you tell me all the games you're playing, even though you kind of just told us earlier. What are you buying? What are you playing?
In Survivor, I was playing D-Force yesterday, Johnny. Have you ever played D-Force on Super Nintendo?
I have. It's not great.
So it's a 2D shooter. It's a vertical shooter. And on some levels, it has two different planes of mode 7 action where you can go like up and down. And I think it's the worst 16-bit shooter I've ever played. I would say it's the worst shooter ever, but like I've played Atari games. There are worse shooters. It is horrendous. It runs at like 10 frames a second. The hit detection doesn't work. Don't play D-Force. There's a reason D-Force is like a $0 game. What I'm buying, John.
After all this time, yeah. What are you buying? Did you buy a lot of stuff?
No. But I bought two kind of cool things. No, you're not going to think one. I bought one kind of cool thing. So did we talk about how the Video Game History Foundation put out their list of not Video Game History, like the Strong Museum does it, I think. The Video Game Hall of Fame, whatever it is. They put out their list, and it's like exactly the games that I've been buying over the past 2 years, like Carmen Sandiego. I can't even remember what they had on there. Do you want me to actually bring up the list, Johnny?
No. You can just tell me what you bought.
Nope. We're bringing up the lists. Animal Crossing, Mattel Football, Flight Simulator, StarCraft. It's like exactly what I'm buying. And then Guitar Hero was one of them. And
did this influence your choices in purchasing?
Absolutely. So what happened was I posted the list in the Discord, in the Collector's Quest Discord, patreon.com/Collector's Quest. And I said, wow, look at this list. I have bought literally every non-arcade game on this list in the past 2 years. Except Guitar Hero, my box is...
Own.
What?
But you own it already.
I own it, but my box is garbage. And there was one on eBay, like, nice box. Guitar looked unused. Like, it still had, like, the styrofoam wrapped around the whammy bar. So it actually looked unused. And it was like $100. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to upgrade my Guitar Hero. Because it is technically an important rhythm game. I think Dance Dance Revolution is much more important. I'm a Dance Dance Revolution kind of guy. I kind of looked down on Guitar Hero because I'm so much ingrained in Japanese rhythm game culture. But I think it's interesting because it is an important rhythm game.
Yeah, I can see that. Hold on. I have a visit from my son. Hi, buddy.
All right, Johnny, I have a this or that. So,
okay.
One of the things you might have noticed happen incessantly is people buying $20 games off eBay, sealed games, $20 sealed games, and then hyping them to the moon as $1,000 video games. Yep. One of the games this has happened with is the retail release of Guitar Hero, which has a UPC on the back. Because as everyone knows, the trilogy versions of like Grand Theft Auto and Devil May Cry, they were part of box sets, so they're worthless, right?
Yeah, they say part of a box set on the back.
But Guitar Hero came with a guitar originally. The original release of Guitar Hero is the box set release. The retail release is if you already had Guitar Hero 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you would go buy the retail version of the game. So to me, the more interesting version is the big box version of Guitar Hero.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Because that's the thing. The other one isn't the thing. This is the thing. That's what we talk about, right? Like identifying what makes it the thing. The box set of GTA, those ones aren't the thing. That's just a reproduction, like a very licensed reproduction of what the thing is, right? Create like if I release God of War on the PS5, that's not God of War. That's not the thing. That's just a simulacrum of the thing. This is the thing. The Guitar Hero, I mean, guitar is in the name. You need the guitar. The only way to get the guitar at that point was to buy that. So that is the thing. That is the first release. That's the one people want, but you can't send that to WATA. So
you can. So the thing is, for whatever reason, the part of a box set sealed copies, they're like $10. They're like worth nothing. What not surprising because the retail copies were worth $20 a year ago. But people all decided let's hype up the UPC copy because that's the thing we did with every other game that comes in a box set. I don't know. Just one of those things where I looked at the market and I'm like, everyone's buying the wrong thing. And I'm not buying like a sealed thing, a sealed big box, but I did want a really nice one. More important story, Johnny. I got Ninja Gaiden on the PlayChoice 10, a new old stock copy. And again, I buy new old stock PlayChoice games because it's essentially the only way to get a box for a PlayChoice game. No one is really keeping those boxes when they open them. Johnny, this game... It's a $400 game. I don't know if it's worth that, but to me, who has been looking for one for maybe 2 years now, this was the first one I've seen come up. High end of Play Choice is like $250 to $350. So if I can stretch a little bit and not have to worry about it anymore, I'm just going to pay $400 for Ninja Gaiden.
Okay, that's crazy, but all right, go on. So
this guy was selling 15 Play Choice games. And I didn't like best offer him down. Paid the full price for this f***ing game. He put a paper shipping label on it and used packing tape to attach it to the PlayChoice box and threw it in the mail.
You should definitely be on this guy's ass.
Like, Johnny, every single thing I buy, I say, I put a note and I say, please ship in a sturdy box. Games get crushed or damaged in mailers. Thanks and cheers, Tyler. I say the thanks and cheers, so it seems like I'm foreign, so people or maybe think they want to be nicer to me.
Yeah, you should be fighting this guy to the death.
Johnny, I didn't include that message here because I thought it was impossible that it could possibly be shipped in a way that I would be unhappy with. Like, the Guitar Hero guy... He fucking built, like, I told him, he's like, oh, I got you, no problem. He built, like, a styrofoam prison around it, and then a custom-sized box. Like, I could not believe how this $100 Guitar Hero game shipped.
And then this $500, $400 thing.
$400 Ninja Guy, like, god damn it. Like, it's not even like I can open a case and get a return, because I'm not going to spend another couple of years trying to find a Ninja Guy. And I know it's not the rarest PlayChoice game.
You should definitely contact this guy. Like, you should 100% let him know that it does not matter.
I said I won another auction from him. It was a Super C, because I want a Super C to go with my Contra. Also, he opened the Super C. He had it new old stock, but he opened it to take pictures as an example for his auctions. Like, why would you not do that with, like, Tecmo Bowl or something? Anyway, long story short, I spent an hour with N-Heptane, Bestine, and I fixed it up. It was probably the hardest sticker removal job I've ever had to do. One, because packing tape is very strong. Two, PlayChoice boxes are like porous cardboard boxes with paper tape on them. So the N-Heptane will go through the PlayChoice tape, and this is a sealed copy, so I do not want that PlayChoice tape coming off. So it took me about an hour to get this shipping label off.
And also the type of tape that's on there will just naturally degrade over time and open.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it's that paper packing tape. Was this from Pastel Maui?
That sounds correct. Is he the one who has... Did you just look for PlayChoice games and find him?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy's a dummy. He props it up with a VHS tape.
Oh, so hold on. I don't want to throw him under the bus until I 100% confirm that we're throwing the right guy under the bus here. Yeah, it's Pastel Maui.
Yeah, of course it is, because he's got a bunch of stock on this stuff.
Oh, he's got more stuff. He put up new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking. I only know
he might have a big warehouse.
I'm watching that Fester's Quest at $95.
So a Fester's Quest sold for $160. I was the underbidder. And I guess he has another one.
Don't take me out, dog.
If you were in the Collector's Quest Discord, patreon.com/Collector's Quest, I did point out when he put up his Super Mario Brothers 3, and I said, try to get this for half price. He had like $600 on it, which I think is way too much, but I don't think $300 would be a terrible price for that. The first American release of Super Mario Brothers 3 in this day and age. And the person who bought it before I post on Instagram, like, what the f*** happened to my Ninja Gaiden? So this guy had Super Mario Brothers 3 new in box on PlayChoice, and he definitely just shipped a shipping label on it and sent it to the thing. Not even send a shipping label. It is much worse to have overlapping packing tape on a paper label than to just have a shipping label to worry about. It was horrible getting this thing off, Johnny.
It sounds awful.
the thing I know is going to happen, I'm worried that the seller or the buyer of the Mario 3 who got it isn't going to be as good getting off tape. Because like if you use Goo Gone on a Play Choice game, it would just be destroyed. It would soak into the cardboard. So either he is going to poorly remove it, or he's going to return it, and then this seller is going to remove the shipping label and do a terrible job. So I'm worried that game is just gone now, but we will see what happens. Anyway, that got me fired up, obviously. I spent an hour this morning getting the tape off that.
Well, I'm glad you did some work on it. Glad it kind of came out all right, though I'm sad. I still think
it maybe I damaged it a little. It's hard to tell, but it came out pretty good.
You should still message him and tell him not to ship things like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I did. So I ended up buying another game from him because I already had Snipes set and I didn't think about it. And I said in my message, like, I'm very disappointed. Put this in the box.
That's strong language for you.
But hey, I got Ninja Gaiden on Play Choice 10. Johnny, I might be the biggest Ninja Gaiden fan on the show. I know you love Ninja Gaiden. I might be the biggest Ninja Gaiden fan of the show. I'm very excited about that.
You are definitely the biggest Ninja Gaiden fan. I'm going to give that to you.
Thanks,
no
John.
doubt. Yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, I like a very specific Ninja Gaiden. I like Ninja Gaiden Black. That's the one I like best of all of them.
Not the original arcade game beat 'em up?
Nope, definitely not that. Definitely not the TG16 one. Not into it.
Johnny.
What else did you buy?
Anything?
I bought. Are you done? Is that all you bought?
Yeah. Am I done? It's like $500 worth of stuff, Johnny.
I mean,
I know it's crazy times. Wait till next week.
I bought some random GBA games. I worked out a deal with Coffee with Mr. Saturn, who has like a fair supply of GBA games, and he found some stuff for me. So that was nice. I got like Blender Bros out of that, so that was pretty cool. That was one I wanted. King of Fighters 2. Like I got some like good GBA like high end, more high end stuff, not like super high end, but like expensive, but not like the $1,000 trash race game that you have to go buy. It's like high end, but also like kind of a cool title. So I felt good about those. I also bought, you're going to love this one, Tyler, The Incredibles comic that comes in the GameCube copy of the game. There's a comic book that comes in there. I realized my copy didn't have it, so I found that. I bought this game called Spellcasting 101. Sorcerers get all the girls because you told me to.
It's basically a Harry Potter game, Johnny. Come on.
Yeah, it's basically what it is it's like it's softcore porn text adventure that shows nothing, gives like heavy implications in like one screenshot. It's a sorcerer as he fumbles his way through college with these girls who he ends up in situations with, but never winds up sealing the deal. And I think this is a game I actually played in the 90s. I told you about it. I'm trying to isolate which game it could have been, because it would have been in 1992 to 1990, or 1991 to 1990, I think, because I remember I was the summer between 8th and 9th grade, and I didn't ever had a computer, but my friend, he had a computer, and he was like showing me this game that was his dad's we weren't supposed to play. Ooh. And like I was just like, wow, this game is crazy. What is happening? Oh my God, that girl is not really dressed. Oh my. This like in this one shot. But like, and like two kids tried to play this in the like monitor, and a lot of reading because it was a text adventure. But we also beat it. Like that was the other thing. Like once I started, especially back then, if I started playing a game, I became very emotionally invested in beating the game, right? So, yeah, so I had to go beat it. Like that was a focus on it. So that was like that and Myst, I think, are the two computer games I've ever I beat first. Still considered in my childhood. So,
all right. So cool pickup. Sounds like Leisure Suit Larry. As a kid, I thought Leisure Suit Larry was a porn game, so I kept playing them, and I'm like, when do I get to the porn? And it's just like, no, it's just an adult-themed game. It's humorous, you idiot, but I couldn't understand that concept as a kid. Almost like a kid watching RoboCop, who doesn't understand It's not just a stupid action movie.
I mean, I think it's made by the guy who did Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh, really?
Steve Mertsky? Nope, who did that? Oh, no, he did... leather goddesses of Phobos and Zork
okay.
Zero. Okay, and so yeah, I mean he's a known entity in that space. That's all I'm saying.
He's like an info
and he did
guy.
Hitchhiker's
I didn't
Guide.
even realize.
Yeah, he did Hitchhikers. That's the other thing.
He did, Hitchhikers.
Yeah.
Oh, man, do I need to get Spellcasting 101, Johnny? I don't have that. I just told you to buy it.
Yeah, so you should get it. And there's also Spellcasting 201 and 301. So
there's a box set with all three of them that I believe is pretty rare.
Well, finding 201 and 301 isn't easy. They're way more expensive than 101. 101 is kind of ubiquitous, easy to find, fun for a picture for Instagram. But yeah, the box set and anything else is going to be pretty difficult. The other game I got, and let's talk about Power Up Video Games, where Johnny finally made his mistake, and I caved and bought Ice 9 for a price I did not like. After, literally, there was the only box copy on eBay for a year. For a year, Tyler.
For a reason.
Right? Never came up. It's possible I missed auctions, but this, I never saw another one. The day I bought this, I bought it, and literally 20 minutes later, someone posted one. For less, condition-wise, about the same, but for about $70 less. I bought that one, too, because it. I'm like, no one can have Ice 9s. No, I bought that one because I knew a friend needed it, so I was like, you know what?
It sounds like a friend needs your Power Up Video Games copy. What happened with the Power Up Video Games great condition copy, John?
Yeah, well, I want you to know they are in the same shape. That's the problem. This one advertised itself as okay shape, but this one from Power Ups, I'm like, oh man, this box is going to be in great shape. He says great shape, right? I knew to kind of avoid it, and the first picture is a little blurry, right? I'm like, the back of the box picture is solid. You can see it. This one's nice. You can, the back of the box looks really nice too. You're like, oh, okay. The manual looks good. The cart looks good. But that front picture, I was like, oh, did he just do it quickly? And this picture is blurry. No, they did that for a reason, and I just didn't know it. So it's got deep pen gouges. So the problem with deep pen gouges on a game, on a cardboard box, is because if it doesn't damage the art specifically, if it doesn't separate the color, you can't really see it because pictures flatten out a three-dimensional image. So that gouge, which is just a big indentation, unless they get a good shot of it, if it's a straight top down, it's very hard to see. So this one had gouges all over it. It had a little tear that they didn't mention or show. The top by the it says Ice, and then there's a logo, and then 9. In that logo, it's someone took a pen and scribbled all in there, they were writing on a pad above it or something. It's awful. This is not great condition. It's not good condition. It's not nice.
Johnny, so, it's great condition. It's not near mint condition.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not near mint. So I messaged them and said, hey, I wasn't send me a refund. I want to return this. I just said, hey, pretty disappointed that the condition that this game came in, you described it as great. This is not great condition. I said, I want deep pen gouges. I took pictures. So it's a little hard to see, but you can see where I'm getting at. There's a tear. There's some crushing here that you didn't mention. There, there's a crease here that you didn't say. You said this in great. They sent back a message what are you talking about? We didn't say it was in great condition. We didn't say it was near mint or mint. It's a tier below those. And I was like, what do you mean it's a tier? You guys have a tiering system? Am I supposed to know about your imaginary tiers if you don't tell me that you have a grading scale, Power Up Video Games? How am I supposed to know your scale if you don't publish your scale anywhere? It'd be different if we said, Power Up Video Games said, our games range from great or near mint to poor, which I would hate to see what their poor looks like. And then they described what they meant by their conditions. I just said, I'm a normal human being, so if I read the word great, I assume better than good, this is in great condition, right? I'm going to get this, and it's going to be great. It was not. It was dog. It's not the worst condition, GBA game I have or anything, but for a $300 game, I like to be a little choosier because I explained to this people, it sounds like we buy a lot of expensive games, but I still deeply consider when I buy a $300 game, what I'm doing. I don't just start dropping $300. That's not $20 to me. $300 is still a significant amount of money to me that I want to be careful when I spend it and feel like like my purchase wasn't stupid, right? But instead I was made to feel like a fool and then have them be like, well, you don't understand. We've got a grading scale and and then I described that the front picture was blurry and that perhaps that was intentional. He's like, what are you talking about? The front picture is crystal clear. And then I felt like, I'm like, are you gaslighting me? Is this crazy pants? Am I insane? I had to show Tyler. I'm like, Tyler, look at this. These pictures are different, right? Like the fidelity of this picture is clearly worse, right? Like the visual clarity is much worse. Tyler's like, yeah, it's a worse picture. Because I could not believe that was their response. And then I just said, you know what, pretty much F you guys. I'll decide if I'm returning it or just dropping negative feedback and telling eBay on you, all that kind of dumb shit. But don't please never speak to me again because you'll never take my money again. This won't happen. Fool me once, my fault, kind of a deal. But like that won't happen again.
Don't buy from Power Up Video Games, no matter how
They
desperate
are
you are.
trash.
I mean, God, if you're like the most desperate and you really don't care about condition, but yeah. The funny thing is, before you told me that they were going to say, oh, it's great, not near mint, I sent you a message like, I know exactly what they're going to say. Because I've had multiple people have this exact interaction with them. They're like, oh, it's great. It's not near mint.
Nonsense. The other thing I got is I got a treasure or a Naruto card for my GameCube copy of Naruto 2 because apparently that game comes with a limited edition card. You might know this if you've ever looked at the front of the box of Naruto, which puts a giant red badge on there. And I think that's all editions, but mine didn't have it. And I found a cheap one. So I was like, I've been trying to tighten up like the extras on games I have.
Sure.
Naruto 2, the player's choice doesn't have that badge on it. So like weirdly, the player's choice looks better, except that yellow band. But yeah, this one's got like a big thing. So part of my collecting this past year has been fixing up some of those like kind of major hiccups where I just like bought a copy and didn't care if it had the card. So I got the card in there now. So
good job, John.
Anyways, that's what I bought. That's what I've bought that's arrived. Next episode we'll talk about more stuff. And that's I don't have anything else, do you?
No.
All right. Well, that's it for the show, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Tyler, where can they find you?
Default Gen, Default GEN, Instagram, Video Game Sage, YouTube. Just send me a message on Instagram.
Yeah, that's probably safest. You can find Stefan at the Art of NP on Twitter. That's pretty much where he lives now. So find him there. You can find me on Instagram, Johnny_Iucci. You can find me on Video Game Sage a little, and you can find me on our Patreon Discord. If you want to come join us there, you can do so for as little as $2 or as much as $6. That's like our price range. Please don't bid more. Please keep in the tiers 2, 4, or 6 because they're meant to give you stuff. If you do like 3 or 5, then you put yourself in a weird space. Yeah, and I don't know what to do with you. Anyways, if you want to join us there, there's a lot of good people there. There's a lot of very knowledgeable collectors there. It's a fun place to hang out. That's where I like to go now. But again, if you don't, you're still going to get the same show. We do put some bonus content there. And that's all I have to say about Patreon. You can find it at patreon.com/collectorsquest. And thank you so much for listening. And I'm sure Tyler will do his rounds of shout outs after this, but bye!
That's our show. Thank you to the patrons, and thank you for putting this at the end of the show. I know some podcasts out there put their patron shoutouts at the beginning of the show, but we at Collector's Quest let you turn off the podcast first. Richard, patron number 1, Bowden, 50 Hertz is good enough for me, Andre, high-end collector, Andrew Brim, Wada 9.8, A++, Benji, Brian Gupta, and Pocky, and Rocky with Becky, Mint Condition, Brian J. Mora, Sophisticated Investor, Cartmageddon, Chris SNK, Too Many NES Accessories, Morozek, I trip over that one like twice before I'm able to say it every time. Johnny's GBA hookup, Coffee with Mr. Saturn, The Last Game You Need for the Set, Corey O'Brien, Unpunched Hang Tab, Dustin Beagle, The Actual Shinobi, Jasonic the Kid, Jeff the Game Boy Farris, Lance, Lord Hardstyle Z, The Degenerate, Matt Fall, Funkoland Employee, Platform Agnostic, Read the Game Shark, The Famicom Box Retro Game Enthusiast, Sean the Gamer Collective, Previously Unknown Variant, Tim Walker, Can't Put Limits on Collecting, VG Collectaholic, Keeper of the Zelda Variant, 0x Def Code, The Actually Rare Bird Dog Gaming, Brandon Rogers, whose favorite episode is the wrestling episode. Canadian Variant Alert, Chris Glidden. Fat Cat Collector, Chris Jackson. Still finding deals in 2021 somehow, Colton Murphy. Derek Lauer, who made me edit this show. Jeremy Jarvis, here for the Pog Talk. Jim Jacobs, world record holder of Best Collection. Video game art collector because video games are art, Justin Chichillo. Michael, posted in the Discord right now, Chiara Monti. Nick, the video game database Morgan. The other guy who collects Korean releases, Peaceful Games. The promoter, Retro RPG Podcast. Tex, who collects for Jaguar. Tom, obscure variant chaser Chase. Andrew, actually collecting N-Gage O. B-Nugs. B-Nugs. Daniel McArdle, who thought this was the Retronauts Patreon. The Xbox Authority, Danny Gomez. The Philatelist, Dork Overlord. My childhood PlayStation idol, Game-Rave.com. Joe actually plays his games, Champity. And Sean, the video game Illuminati LaCroix. Thank you guys so much.